Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. Got a great panel. Going to talk about some comic books. We got big news about DC. We're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite comic books of the year so far. We're halfway through, and I'm going to have some lists coming up later in the week. But first, let's see who we got here. First time panelist, we got Clint Stoker, Sweetcast. How you doing, Clint?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, glad you could make it. Sounds like you're out having fun with the family and everything. Glad you were able to make some time for us.
Yeah, it was great. This is the first time I used to do Saturday morning streams. Way back when I first started my YouTube channel, and this has been a while, so it's kind of fun. You hit a different crowd.
Absolutely, I've been doing this one for like 3 years or something, but it's not a Saturday morning stream for me. It's like 10 p.m. because I'm in the Philippines.
Yeah, no, I still have like morning voice, so we'll wear it in.
Doc's had morning voice, since he was about 25. Got it stuck there. So, Clint, you got anything special? I know you write comic books. You got your YouTube channels, or anything else anything specifically people should be on the lookout for right now?
I would just say I've got an Indiegogo campaign with it's for Clint Stoker's Dracula, my Dracula. Not to be confused with the original, but there's 3 days left. So
3 days left.
3 days left. So yeah, that'd be the thing. Book's done too, and it's at the printer, so it's low stress.
Very nice. So it's a guaranteed. You put your money in, and you're going to get a quick return.
They tell me next month I should have the books to start shipping, so that's a good feeling.
Very nice. We've got Nerdy Girl Creates in the chat here. Carrie has been going through some stuff. I don't know if she's returned quite back to YouTube and stuff yet, but she'll probably be on next week if she's available. But definitely send out your thoughts and prayers and good vibes to Carrie and her family because they're going through some stuff, and she's definitely been on our thoughts and prayers here on the channel. Who else we got? We got Gabe from Weird Science DC as well as Comical Opinions. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. It's very hot and very muggy, but happy 4th of July weekend to everybody out there in the United States.
So where you're from,
happy to talk about comics.
Where you're from, do you do cosplay for 4th of July? Because it looks like you're going to the, Magnum PI convention or something.
Yeah, this is I will have you know this is a Father's Day gift, so I will wear it with pride.
You wear it in a very good manner,
Oh,
sir. I didn't say it wasn't becoming. I just said, kind of look like Magnum.
Well, and it's stretchy too. It's stretchy. I like it.
Very nice. You guys got anything in Weird Comics DC or Comical Opinions that people should know about?
No, just reading more comics. Of course, the big hullabaloo is the Comicron ICV2 numbers that came out yesterday or the day before, and that's creating the usual and rather annoying amount of buzz and analysis. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Absolutely, that is on the docket to get to. So definitely glad that you could make it. Who else we got? We got Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. Great to be here. Great to be back. Let's talk about some comics.
Well, let's talk about you. You got a big convention next weekend. If people want to meet the real Drew from Comics Elite and like maybe all the guys from Merck and everything, where are you guys going to be?
We're going to be at the Chicago Fan Expo up by the Chicago O'Hare Airport. It's a 4-day convention. We got some cool exclusives. We got something cool involving Simon Bisley at the convention. Everyone's going to want, but yeah, it should be a lot of fun at the show. I'll be there all 4 days. I'll be running the booth, so I won't be going anywhere. So if you want to come up, say hi, punch me in the face, whatever. Yeah, come on up. I'll be there.
Very nice, man. I would punch you right in the dick just to say I did it. So are you going to meet up with Gervais? He's out in Chicago. You should take him to lunch. Go to IHOP or something.
Yeah, if he stops by. I think apparently he stopped by our booth at C2E2, and I didn't get a chance to see him. But yeah, if he stops by, I'll gladly give him a big old hug.
Definitely. If you're going to be in the Chicago area, go check out the guys from Comics Elite at the big con coming up. We've also got Josh McDonald, the big man. He's a big fan of Batman, but he's also the DC aficionado. How you doing, Josh?
I am doing well. I just want to say that I can confirm Drew gives really big hugs. It was one of the I just for whatever reason I didn't expect Drew to be a hugger, and he was a hugger, and I was like, this is a big hug. All right, cool. So
I expected him to be a cupper, so when you said that he grabbed your ass, I was not surprised.
Well,
That's
time out, Wes. Was it my ass or was it my balls? Because last week
I'm sure he diddles your balls, but going from the back.
We're just super friendly here at the Comics Aficionados. We greet you however we feel like it. Clint, just wait till we see you in person, buddy. It's going to be sexual harassment all day, every day.
All right, I'll wear shorts.
All hands on deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm good. It's randomly storming here. We weren't planning on having storms, so if you're like, why does this lighting look weird? It's because it's practically pitch black outside.
Wow.
It is very hot. It's 10 p.m. here, and it's still 90 degrees. I'm sweating my nuts off. So if I'm glistening, it's not just because I'm having a good day. It's because I'm really sweaty. It's not very nice.
He's glowing because he's pregnant.
That's what it is. I'm retaining water.
His wife said it's your turn.
It's 10 minutes in and I'm already uncomfortable.
I've done it
That's the point
3
of the show.
times. You get the next one.
Look, if he's pregnant, I was just going to be like, dude, you're 2 days past June. What's going on?
All right, Doc. You're last but not least. You are the Marvel aficionado. You're a big fan of old X-Men. Not a lot going on in X-Men. What's going on with Doc? Did you go to the Permani brothers?
Permanis? No, I did not. I actually haven't been to Permanis in a few weeks. I kind of need a sandwich.
They put French fries on sandwiches there.
Yes, they do. They put everything on the sandwich. The coleslaw, the French fries, the meat, the cheese, the tomato loaded up with pepper, and slap it between 2 enormous slices of Italian bread. It's kind of dope.
Very nice. I would definitely go if I could. So whatever. Let's not talk about food because we could go on forever. We've done that before. Let's talk about some comic book news. We got the word that DC Comics are essentially skipping San Diego Comic-Con in 2022. Warner Brothers Discovery are taking a step back, and this will be the first time in history that DC Comics don't have a major presence on the floor. They won't have a booth. They won't have all the comings and goings with all the creators and stuff. Josh, you are the DC guy. Is this big news? No news?
I think it's big news in the fact that it's breaking from the status quo. But we know that Zaslav is really trying to cut budget, and I think it was $3 billion that he's trying to cut. And if you've been to San Diego Comic-Con and you've seen the DC Warner booth, especially the DC booth back when they had it freestanding, it was very cool, but there was no profit that came from it at all. Like, they didn't sell anything there. They had costumes there. They would do some signings there, but they were free signings. So as cool as it was, there was no financial benefit immediately that came from it, other than, hey, come take pictures. And, it was a good media outlet. Like, it was great for pictures and circulating on social media. But other than that, there really isn't much of a financial gain that they're going to get immediately from that. Whereas other booths, they could have changed it up and sold some stuff there and maybe benefited that way. But it's odd. Like, I'm not going to Comic-Con this year, so if I were there, it would definitely feel different and weird. It already felt weird when they tried combining Warner Brothers with the DC booth, mainly because they shoved it back in the corner, and then it's always chaos back there because that's where the main celebrity signings are. I think more than anything, it's just going to be strange.
All right, Doc, you're the voice of reason around here. Is this no big deal? Does this signal impending doom for DC Comics?
I'm gonna have to go with no. Look, it's as Josh said, it is a impractical, pretty useless thing. It's just a promotional tool for them, but for the most part, they're not really even promoting their comics. So the only thing they're really promoting there effectively is their film. And honestly, right now, I don't think DC wants to really promote their film because because the next one on tap is The Flash, and it's going to draw.
No, it's not. The next one is Black Adam, then you have Shazam, and then you have Super Pets.
I understand that, but my point is Flash is right there. and it's just going to bring all that criticism back up. It honestly would not shock me to find out that they skipped this because of the Ezra Miller thing.
Man, if they had some stones, they would show up with Ezra Miller. You know what I mean? We're not hiding from the criticism. Ezra Miller's right here in the Flash costume.
If they were smart, they'd show up with Ezra Miller in handcuffs to turn him over.
Well, you show up, you have the dunk tank, and $15, you're going to throw a grapefruit. $25, we got some rotten tomatoes. Make a little money off them. You know what I mean?
That's certainly one way to do it, but I think what it is really they don't want the potential criticism right now, and it wouldn't shock me if this is a strategic 1-year move, and they'll be back next year once all this fucking hullabaloo is gone.
Yeah. Absolutely, they could be regrouping and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, Wes, you've got to mention, you're talking about the tomatoes and the oranges and stuff, but, you forgot about paying $100 to sing Shallow by Lady Gaga.
Oh, man, you break a chair over your head. You're knocked out cold. It'd be like you get a T-shirt. I went to Comic-Con and I got knocked out by Ezra Miller. Beautiful.
He'll choke you. He'll choke you out for $20.
You do that for free. You buy
he'll slap you. He'll slap you for 10. And never mind. That part will get me in trouble.
Probably gonna go too far there for a second. Doc. All right, Drew. So obviously you guys are doing the con scene right now. You're glad to see the conventions are back. San Diego Comic-Con, this will be their first in-person convention. A couple years now was shut down because of the pandemic and everything. Are you surprised that DC Comics are doing this, or do you think this should have been expected?
It's surprising, and it isn't at the same time, because we go to all the conventions, and one thing we did notice is that a lot of the big publishers are cutting back on their convention floor presences, like C2E2, Marvel, none, DC, none, Image, none. It's like, what is going on here? And Kyle, Sean, and I would talk and be like, it's only a matter of time. I guarantee you next year, DC is going to be gone from DC or Marvel are going to be gone from the big shows. And hey, it happened. And guarantee it's not going to be the first or last show that they're going to be absent from. This is going to be like a ripple effect. I guarantee you.
Good for vendors though, because you'll get more of the spotlight.
Yeah, I will say at C2E2, publishers like Aftershock, they're getting a prime real estate at C2E2 as soon as you walk in. They're selling out of their stuff the very first day. So yeah, this is a big time for like a lot of the smaller publishers to really shine if the big two aren't going to show up.
Well, and those smaller publishers actually have something to fucking sell.
Yes.
that's the other problem. I mean, like you go to cons and you see like Zenoscope, they have a booth and they're selling stuff. You have other small press, even Image will sometimes sell some things at the conventions, but Marvel and DC don't have anything to sell. And it boggles my mind how they don't. Like anything of actual consequence, at least.
Yeah, well, and especially with like DC's booth in particular is massive, and like the way they set it up. Right? What was that?
It's like the biggest one on the floor.
Yeah, typically when they had their just standalone DC booth, it was one right there by one of your main entrances, so you walked in and you saw it immediately. But it was probably one of the biggest ones on the sales floor, and they could have very easily set it up in a way that you had like a comic sales booth, comics and trades. You could have a collectibles booth. You could even have a DC Direct statue booth, and they always displayed
exclusive collectibles and comic covers.
So, I mean, and with the exclusives and stuff, that's always been interesting because they partner with a different company that's like catty corner to them and sell that stuff. But you could have easily incorporated all of that into your area, and then if you still wanted to do your signings or your like artist panel draw things, like you could just have like the retail portion of it just shut down for that 30 minutes or hour, let them do the signings, and then pick it back up again. So it is kind of strange. I think they could have been more strategic about it. I do think some of what Doc said kind of plays into this too, though. I think there's a lot that I think for this year, they're really buying their time because I feel like in terms of the the drama that's been going on between her and then Ezra Miller. You also have the fact that Zaslav is stepping in, but he hasn't had enough time to actually set out a game plan. So I'm sure they don't want to come out with this huge marketing. So take away their main presence, so they're not on the sales floor constantly having to promote a ton of stuff, and then just let them have their like 3 panels I think they're doing for films.
So, Clint, are you going to buy some area on this floor? Maybe buy up DC's old space and have a Sweetcast booth?
I could. It depends on how expensive it is. When I see something like this happen,
like $15,000 maybe.
Yeah,
more.
That could be it. When I see something like this, though, I think it really is a drop in the bucket as far as promotion goes for any company that wants to go and it's in their backyard. It's like they have to be there. They have to be there. Or at least that's the perception. The fact that they're not going, it says a little bit about San Diego Comic-Con to me. Like, I don't know what their dealings are together, but it's there clearly was something they weren't very happy about, and so they're pulling out because the money that it takes to go sit there and promote, it's not a big deal.
It's $25 million for Warner Brothers Discovery for what they were doing prior. It
cost $25 million for them to sit at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep.
Okay.
All the infrastructure and stuff they have set up.
I changed my mind then. I had no idea it was that expensive. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, you have to keep in mind, too, that all the talent that they have, they then are getting hotels for and everything else. Like, that gets added into the cost. If you've been to San Diego Comic-Con, you know that shit is not cheap.
The hotel blocks are obscenely expensive. They're paying flight costs, food costs, hotel costs. You got
to pay freight to move all your stuff in there. The stage setup is enormous.
You got to pay parking just to park whatever 18-wheeler you hold your entire
you got to get special security for Tom King so he doesn't get beat up.
Yeah, so I guess if they're paying for all that, their booth, to me, there'd be ways to mitigate the cost, or there'd be ways to make money at it. I mean, I don't know.
It's not just comic books though. Sweetcast, Hasbro pulled out.
Yeah. Well, again, this says something about San Diego Comic-Con that is a problem. If it's not profitable, or if it doesn't make sense for their biggest, the biggest names there, I think they have a problem.
Yeah. It was 2 years ago, I think, at San Diego. They were selling Todd McFarlane prints, like where if you signed up, the Todd McFarlane Batman prints of this Batman 421 cover, where it's like if you sign up for a credit card at the DC booth, you get this free print. And I'm trying to wonder if DC was able to capitalize off that itself. I know they sold a ton of those.
No, but Todd did probably.
Yeah. Very nice. So what are your thoughts on this one, Gabe? You're not a man that doesn't normally have an opinion.
I've always got opinions. This DC Comics going to San Diego Comic-Con makes no fiscal sense at this point. I see a lot of people making bones about, this spells disaster and doom. It doesn't. If you've been paying attention since the lockdown and the pandemic started, 2+ years ago, where San Diego Comic-Con changed up their format to go virtual because people couldn't attend in person. That was an eye opener for a lot of people who have always wanted to go but have never been, because they could see the videos streamed and captured on YouTube, where they could see all the different panels and all the different things that are happening. A lot of those panels were just boring and awful. So I think that in one perspective, that really kind of lifted the mythological veil of how great San Diego Comic-Con is. A lot of people are like, why would I spend all that money, go through all the aggravation, basically try and sacrifice a small child to my demon of choice to try and get a hotel room to be near San Diego Comic-Con? And most of the panels are like, the history of Aboriginal comics in the South Wales area. It's like, who would want to attend panels like that? Most of those panels were junk. Everybody wanted to go for cosplayers, Artist Alley, and Hall H. That was it. Mm-hmm. And most of that was just announcement based. So if you're
freebies, you get freebies if you go there in person.
Right. So when you look at where DC Comics is today, it makes no fiscal sense to spend millions of dollars to establish this huge presence when all the stuff that's going to come out of that are announcements that people are going to get online anyway, either the next day or the day before. So you're not gaining anything from that. B, there's no strong link between the presence of SDCC generating sustained continued sales over a period of time. And 3, I mean, to Doc's point, I'm gonna break with tradition and actually agree with Doc early on in the sorry, is right. DC has more bad press than good right now. And so to spend all that money to establish this huge presence, to get all these people, including journalists, reporters, and whatnot from all the different outlets like The Beat or Bleeding Cool or whatever else to come up, all it's going to do is invite attention where right now DC doesn't want attention. And I don't want to say that from what they internally want. I'm saying that from the outside, all the attention that they're garnering these days is bad. Not a lot of good. It's all bad. So why invent that extra attention and spend all the money to do it when you're not getting sales, you're not getting repeat customers, you've got nothing to hype other than the movies, and WB can do that on their own without DC Comics to do it for them, and then you're effectively just throwing money out the window. There's no point to it.
Yeah, Gabe mentioned too, like, what's the point when you can, have the announcements that are coming from these panels come like later that day or the next day. But the reality we saw was, I think it was starting in 2017, DC started doing exclusives with different outlets that they would announce whatever the news was like 5 minutes before the panel would start, because we'd either be in line waiting to go into the room or have just sat down, and then we'd start getting news hits of like, oh, this book was announced by these creators, and I'm like, that is going to be what they're about to announce. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, they're announcing it in the panel. So then it almost made it like worthless for the people that were actually paying to be there. It's a bad move, but yeah.
Yeah, and the other couple of years they set up DC Fandom, which I thought was a better online virtual event than SDCC. I thought that was more polished, it was more put together, it had better production value. But what they saw, what I believe they saw, is that spending all that money to set that up, you're still not getting consistent sales, you're not getting an increase in customer base, you're not building the hype for the new titles, and so you just throwing money away. So from DC Comics perspective, I can understand that they just wouldn't want to do it, and it makes fiscal sense.
So Drew, you guys are on the con scene right now. It feels like maybe San Diego Comic-Con really is kind of, it's not dying off, but it's becoming less and less important over time. It feels like the Fan Expo is taking over, where they're kind of taking the show on the road and coming to a city near you. And I feel like people are enjoying those conventions more anyway.
Yeah. So 2 things. San Diego, real quick. It's not about the comics anymore. Let's be honest. It is. After going, it is about the toys, the toy exclusives, and the video games. Seeing firsthand those toy lines, it is like legit fucking stupid. I cannot begin to be honest about just how nuts people are for the toys there. I have PTSD trying to get in the Mattel line and getting like physically assaulted up against the wall.
It's like Black Friday flashbacks.
Yeah, it really is. It really is on crack. And but the video game exclusive stuff too, that's even crazier. Whereas with the comics, there's like no lines over there, really. It's just like no hullabaloo at all. Nothing.
Because it's an afterthought.
Yeah. And with the Fan Expos, so the Fan Expo company itself, they bought up all the former Wizard conventions. They're now the Fan Expos. And Merc Publishing, we have a partnership with them where we have our own exclusive at every single Fan Expo. So we're gonna have a presence at every single one. So we're gonna be going to most of them, and they're drawing a lot of comic book talent at these shows. So I really think they're gonna start if they handle everything right, the correct way, they could probably trump a lot of these big shows.
Absolutely. So we do have we got some people doing the super chats. We should probably get to those. We got Steven Steele with the super sticker. Well, thank you very much for supporting the channel, Steven. I really appreciate that. Cal Lyle says, "Sing it, Spider Gay. Lock up your friend. He's hard today." My goodness, his Pride Month is over. It is over.
Hey, I'm waiting for the gay Spider-Man, Bobby Drake, and frumpy, angry feminist Firestar remake of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Okay, well, you keep waiting on that. We got Darth Bobcat. Rod Perlman is Slade with costume Ezra and Shades. That would do it, wouldn't it?
Maybe in his younger years. In his younger years, maybe. He's too old for that now.
I like Rod Perlman. Did you ever see Quest for Fire?
Yes.
That's one of the greatest performances in movie history. He didn't even say a word of English. I don't think he even spoke in that movie because he was a caveman, but it's still pretty damn good. I like Perlman.
If
It's
they're
an
gonna have
oldie but a
somebody,
goodie.
if there's gonna have somebody give dressed up as Deathstroke, shouldn't it be Joe Manganiello?
Yeah.
He's already cast for it.
He sounds like he'd be more expensive.
Yeah,
Probably.
well,
He's not irrelevant.
you know what? All you need to do is give Ron Perlman, tell him Trump's going to be there, and he'll show up for free. So he can.
Yeah, but he'll pee on his hands or something weird.
I know,
He'll
but
bring
then
chains.
You just make sure you give everybody's already. This is 2022.
Free gloves.
We're in a post-pandemic world. Everyone already carries hand sanitizer. So
Everybody
it's
get
fine.
your surgeon gloves at the door. Cal Lyle. And do you think Jim Lee would be called out for his Kool-Aid drinking if he went? I don't know. No, I think Jim Lee would do. He's going to do some panels. We know that he's going to have one of the panels. So I think there's going to be 3 of them. But no, he's going to get asked questions by the sycophants out there, and he'll answer them and make a couple announcements. That's your experience, right? Right, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, he usually does a couple of panels throughout the weekend at SDCC. A lot of times it was like a panel with the publishers, and you used to have Dan and Jim up there kind of speaking to, what the big plans are, what they're doing. And then he's usually involved with some of the like character focused panels. So a lot of times they'd have like, a Gotham panel, and it's all the different Gotham characters, and then specifically a Batman panel, and then like a Superman panel. And then I think the thing that people tended to like the most was there's always a panel that was like an hour with Jim Lee, and he would literally just sketch and draw the entire time and just field questions. People could come up and ask whatever they wanted to. He'd answer it. And to me, that's when he would always shine, is when he just kind of just got to have this like free filtered, whatever you want to talk about, let's talk about it. And that's the Jim Lee I wish we were getting and seeing, because that Jim Lee seems to have an understanding of what's going on and is engaging and kind of hypes things up, but not in a fake way. Like, you get to see his passion and what he really enjoys about the work that he's doing or the company's doing. And then that guy has been absent for the past, 2.5, 3 years. So
he's ducking everybody.
Everybody.
Callum also wants you to know, Josh, that he's glad you liked his Batman versus Demona sketch.
Dude, that was a good sketch. And the moment I saw that, I was like, yo, I would watch that in a heartbeat, or read that in a heartbeat. That was awesome.
Very nice. We'll send him some more. He was excited. Wade Kraber says, so what about the CW network selling for $0? Nexstar assumed $100 million in debt. DC All Media is having super issues. Well, that wasn't DC Media. CW was a joint venture between Warner Brothers. Was it Paramount?
Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount, where they had this network where they were going to be able to create content that eventually come back for streaming and whatnot. But the CW network literally was a money hole. They lost money the entire time. It never actually turned a profit. So having another company to assume the debt associated with the company and not having to deal with it anymore is probably welcome news. It's probably pretty smart, on the part of Zaslav, just to get out of it. And then, they want to continue to pay Warner Brothers Discovery to create the DC shows on CW Network. Great. They're going to start making money and start losing money. The CW it's never been good. It has a very niche audience I don't know, Clint, it's just bad shows. Even the good stuff turns terrible after a couple of years.
But it's like no one's told them. Like they just keep making them.
It.
Yeah, it's like they never had that meeting. It's this elephant in the room, and they just keep going. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, once you have all the members of your cast start banging each other, that's when you lose the spark.
And look, anyone that hires Ava DuVernay, you're pretty much just setting yourself up that you can guarantee the next 3 years until you've parted ways with her, your company's going to be a money hole.
Yeah, but who would have made Naomi work, Doc?
Nobody. It shouldn't have happened. That's the point.
Then it wasn't Ava
Bendis can't make
DuVernay's fault.
Bendis can't make Naomi work.
No, this is
No,
a
but
stupid idea to run with it.
my point is Ava DuVernay costs companies money everywhere she goes. She costs Disney money, she costs Warner Brothers money, and she costs the CW money.
You can say
That's what my point is. It's not her fault though. Naomi is dog shit. They could have put Steven Spielberg on it and would have sucked.
Hey, look, we could have said the same thing about the X-Men until Chris Claremont ended up on that book. It was a canceled title, and then it became the best thing on the planet.
Yeah, but they didn't rush it to a movie.
No,
after
no,
like
no.
6 months.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a creator, like a very, very, very good creator can sometimes find a way to make even shit work.
Still got to make it for the CW with all that stupid angsty bullshit.
I understand, but you could have at least made it interesting.
I don't think they could have. It's not an interesting character.
Fair.
I'm not blaming that one on Eva DuVernay. You know, the sand. What is it? A Wrinkle in Time. That's her fault. Yeah, Oprah fucking Winfrey, and you dropped the ball. How'd you do that one?
At some point, people consistently being involved in giant flops that cost money has something to do with them. It's not just a coincidence. It's the reason why I keep saying Oscar Isaac, good actor, terrible at picking projects. Everything he does is a shit project.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Ex Machina was a good movie.
It was fucking terrible.
And
What?
That was the
exactly.
that you know what? That is one of the
Thank you, Doc,
few
for
movies.
Exposing yourself.
That was one of the few movies in my life I've actually walked out of.
I changed my mind. Doc is now forever wrong.
Yeah, that is such a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Ex Machina was fucking terrible.
All right, this isn't the Ex Machina show, but you exposed yourself, Doc. Cal Lyle, for all of you, do you have your own short story idea for one character for DC or Marvel? I'd like to hear them. Well, we don't have time to get into all the short stories, but I know, Josh, you got short story ideas for DC characters, right?
Absolutely. I actually have full-on pitches like mapped out. So
pitches and
bitches. Yeah.
You got Nightwing in there, right?
You know what? No, actually, I don't have a night. Well, actually, no, I do have a Nightwing pitch, but a lot of these pitches were from like either the end of the New 52 or when they first went into Rebirth. So that's when I actually had a lot of editors that I was friends with that were openly like, hey, you know, if you were going to do something, what would you do? And I'm like,
man, mine would be called Nightwing Tight Ass. And basically, his ass just takes over his whole body. And he just becomes this enormous walking set of butt cheeks. And he takes over Bloodhaven.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll work.
It's a gimmick. That's what it is. Clint, you got any short stories with DC and Marvel characters?
Yeah, I got to do a Green Lantern, Green Arrow, where Green Arrow gets red pilled, and he like changes his whole perception. Green Lantern takes him around and shows him, Atlas Shrugged. He gets super. His whole world just changes, and he becomes an Ayn Rand fan.
Does it start off with Ollie getting a copy of Fountainhead for his birthday?
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Does anyone else have any short stories? I know you're writing, Drew. You got a short story with the DC or Marvel character that you thought of?
Yeah, I've been working on one. My side time when I have it for a Batman Red Hood story. Jason Todd story, more or less.
Is it an intimate tale of romance?
Not even close. No, it's Jason Todd. Jason Todd Manhunt. Just Jason Todd Manhunt. That's all I'm gonna say.
Manhunt. I like where you're going there. I see the pun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
So many of our topics today are just 2 days.
We're going
too
down
late.
to the Blue Oyster Bar for date night.
We're talking about Ezra Miller in Chains, Red Hood Manhunt. I mean, extended Pride Month, guys. Come on.
I wasn't expecting a Police Academy reference this early in the morning, but
I'll go with it. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, it is a great movie. It would never get made today, but it's a great movie.
No, absolutely not. Carrie from Nerdy Girl Creates. Do you think Zaslav is putting a hold on everything purposely to revamp things? CW just sold for $0. Yeah, I mean, they didn't just sell for $0. They're not going to lose money on it anymore. So that was a good move. And he is trying to save $3 billion. $25 million saved by not going to SDCC. And, $25 million in the big scheme of things compared to $3 billion isn't all that much, but it kind of tells you he's looking at the small ways to save, money here and there to get to that $3 billion number. Gabe, $3 billion is a lot of money.
They switched to single ply toilet paper.
That's what it is.
Taco
Bell is now catering for them.
I will say from a business standpoint, I like what I see out of Zaslav so far. At least he's giving the appearance of being financially responsible. with
Yeah, he
DC
cut out
Comics.
the Wonder Twins movie.
He's cutting out stuff that
Jesus.
doesn't make sense. He's cutting out stuff that looks like it's a loss leader. He's doing all those things. Now, cutting costs is one thing. Generating revenue is something else.
Mhm.
So far, I haven't seen him do anything that looks like it makes money. So it's easy to cut out stuff that looks like it's just throwing money out the window. I won't say that's easy, but it's a very clear decision point. What I don't see him doing is, okay, so how are we going to turn this around to start making revenue or profit, ideally profit? That's what I haven't seen yet. That's what I'm looking forward to. Now, and I expect that something is going to happen probably August, September timeframe, where you're going to start to see little hints and shifts and little subtle changes in the creative strategy for DC Comics. Could be wrong about that. I'm just sort of reading the tea leaves on that one. But that's where I think we're going to get a clearer picture of what's coming up at the end of the year and the beginning of 2023. And so that's where I think if Zaslav is serious about continuing DC Comics as a revenue generator, that's where we're going to start to see stronger hints of how that's going to play out. So far, I like what I see, but again, cutting costs is one thing. Making money is something different. So we'll see how that goes.
Cal Miles says, "Did you see the Tampon Baymax video by Disney?"
Yeah,
And I really like Big Hero 6 too. I was like, why have we had a sequel or a TV show about this? And then you see this like video on Twitter, you're like, what?
There was supposed to be a Big Hero 6 like follow-up cartoon, like animated, series.
Yep.
Like 4 years ago. And
Yeah,
it
but
just never
did you
came
see the
out.
tampon video?
I know, but I mean, I'm saying it never came out. Like, yes, it's a stupid video.
I'm just gonna say I have not heard about this, but it sounds like a bloody disaster.
Oh, it's everything current year that you can imagine a Disney tampon video would be.
Yeah,
Everything.
It's so weird. Carrie says, you don't think DC is stupid enough to launch their own con like Disney?
well, that's what fandom was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but Warner Brothers Discovery has enough stuff to do that, especially with the broad stuff. Like they could have DC Comics, but they could also have your Harry Potter stuff. You could do the stuff from the Food Network. I imagine you could get a lot of people from different demographics to go to like a Warner Brothers convention where they're celebrating all the stuff that they have.
Can you imagine a convention where even fewer people are into comics? That's
Well, yeah,
exactly
that's what it would be. It would be
yeah,
a
that's
Warner
exactly what
Brothers
this would
thing.
be.
Be like, oh, is that Bobby Flay?
They could do it, yeah.
But Clint's
Batman
point,
next one.
but Clint's point that he just made strikes at the very heart of where DC is struggling right now. Is they don't understand the composition of their audience from a marketing and a business perspective. They don't know who their audience is and what their audience is into. They're trying out food or they're trying out fashion. We'll get to multiverse Spider-Man in a little bit here. They're trying out all these different perspectives and angles of points of interest for a prospective audience, but their core audience is into superhero action adventure. That's what they want. That's what they've been looking for. That's what's been absent for so long. And so if they could start up the event, but if they start bringing in all these different, cooking shows and chefs and celebrities and all that, everything, that's sure it's good for a press moment. But if you're talking about what are the people that are into comics, what are they looking for? Are you bringing that with these celebrities?
Yeah, but are you bringing your wife who hates comic books but likes Bobby Flay with you?
Hey,
That's not
remember?
going to make sales. That's not going to make sales.
Hey,
It's
remember?
not about sales. We're talking about a card.
Remember whenever I told you DC was just copying Marvel's homework from 5 years ago?
Hey,
That's
listen,
literally
D23 is a success. That's the smartest thing they ever did.
that's
They're the
liter-
whole spotlight of the entire convention.
that is literally Marvel's fucking YouTube channel.
Making
From
Marvel a
5 years
brand,
ago.
making a
Yes.
lifestyle brand. And
Yes.
that's stupid. It's stupid.
It didn't work
Oh,
for
yeah, I
them,
know.
so DC's
Who
going to
cares
do the
about
exact
Super
same
Bowl
thing.
recipes? They could do a lot of stuff with that YouTube channel. If Clint and I were in charge of that YouTube channel, it'd be a success.
You,
They'd have people
I'll tell you,
excited about
what
comic
we wouldn't have, which are some of those like food discussions or
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, whatever comes up there. It's been a long time since I even looked at one of their videos to laugh at it. That's saying something.
Yeah, those guys are absolutely clueless. Kyle Lyle, do you think some cons are starting to turn into lectures like Star Wars celebs when they all talk about diversity, women, and evil men? Well, they certainly have the panels that do it. They dedicate a lot of the covers there to what they're talking about.
See, I remember going to cons back in the 90s, and they still had some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Like that was still part of it. Like I remember, so like even in like the old Pittsburgh Comic Con, before it became MurderCon and Renee sold it to Wizard, they would have like those, you know, albino Aboriginal comic creators for whatever fucking ridiculous panels, but then they'd have Brian Bendis doing a panel on how to effectively do a group scene. This was back when he could still write, and that, but so that was always common. Now they actually promote those ridiculous stupid lecture panels now and ignore the ones that people would actually go to.
The worst crime though is if they have let's say that they have one of those panels and it's clear this is a lecture. This is where you be better. That could be the title of that panel.
G. Will Wilson.
But it's worse if you go expecting like, hey, I'm gonna learn about how how comics are made, something else, and it's sprung on you. And they're doing more and more of that, which is that to me is the biggest crime. Like you didn't sign up for, because they know they're preaching to the choir when it's clear and transparent. I mean, that's the same reason why it jumps on you in comic books from time to time as well. They're trying to get to a different audience. That's the crime.
Well, I mean, shit. Anybody remember Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith movie? They literally made fun of this in like 1997 for these ridiculous lecture panels. Now, granted, Kevin Smith is now participating in the ridiculous lecture panels.
He got converted.
Yes.
Common Sense asks, have you seen the Super Sons movie trailer? What are your thoughts, Josh?
I have not seen it. I didn't realize
Who's the
that.
DC guy?
Well, it just came out yesterday.
Yeah, it just came out yesterday.
It looks good. It looks good, and I think the writer on that is Adams. I think he's the writer on that cartoon. It looks good. Yeah, I mean, if you're into Super Sons and you want to kind of get back to that taste of what Bendis robbed you of, then yeah, you're in for a good time. The one thing I did want to bring up on the previous point about the cons, what most people don't realize, and I just want you to keep this in mind, is a lot of the big cons, the major events, are all owned by the same company, which is ReedPop. ReedPop owns Star Wars Celebration, Emerald City Comic-Con, PAX East, PAX West, New York Comic-Con, SDCC. It's all the same company.
ReedPop doesn't own SDCC. Comic-Con International does.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. You're right. Sorry. But a lot of the big ones, they're all owned by ReedPop. So if you expect to see certain types of panels and discussion groups and at one of those, let's say PAX East, for example, or PAX West, you're going to get the same people coordinating those same discussions with those same panel creators, assuming they can make it or not. So if you see it popping up in one place, odds are if it's owned by ReedPop, it's going to be popping up somewhere else. So you got to set your expectations accordingly if that's not the kind of content that you want.
Wolfsteed 3D says DC has 99 problems not attending SDCC 81. I like it. That is a good hip hop reference. We got Dylan Lindsay. Sadly, you only fail upwards in Hollywood, Doc.
That is a good point. You literally do. And Ava DuVernay is a very good example of that.
Absolutely. Darth Bobcat, Soulful Saint, Black Man Ollie. You help the black skids and the yellow skids, even the purple. But have you considered that taxation is theft?
You're damn right it is.
Yes, Doc. You're a flat earther, aren't you, Doc?
No, but I am a taxation is theft, and all gun control is unconstitutional.
Okay, Doc.
Yeah, I know.
God.
Every week I just try to get you
Pele on
demonetized.
me, man.
Every
You
week I
fucking
just
put Pele on me here.
I'm not going on a giant rant.
Galileo, one of my ideas is a flashback story about the Spectre and how and why he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Man, Sodom and Gomorrah would make like the greatest super villain team up ever.
DC already
You know
has
what I
a
mean?
Gomorrah.
Wouldn't that be good, Clint? You know what I mean? You go back in time and it turns out Sodom and Gomorrah weren't cities.
They
They're like
were
these
people, and
they're
their names are
supervillains.
fitting. Yeah.
DC already has a Gomorrah. It's the one that they stole from Wildstorm. It's that fucking island nation that's the knockoff Genosha. that Bendix is president of now.
And her evil twin is Sodom.
They haven't gotten around to the other island.
I thought Sodom in DC
on
isn't he like isn't he a
there?
Kryptonian? Like Sodom, I can't remember.
I
don't know.
Ugh, you're way.
I think
too
he's
far.
Kryptonian.
I just know that they stole it from Wildstorm,
Well,
and there's a Gamora. It used to
farming
be run by
ideas
Kaiser
happens
Gamora.
in comic books. So we got Clint Stoker wrote Clint Stoker's Dracula. He stole
Yeah.
that from Bram Stoker.
Yeah, I pried it from his cold dead hands.
Exactly.
Oh.
Half its stock. My goodness. You big meanie. Dr. J, Davey Writers, you cockblock Spider-Man. Now you did it again with Batman, the latest preview 125. This is why I read Daredevil. Well, Daredevil and Batman have the same writer. He's like the same writer. Batman 125 will be divisive. Let's put it that way, Josh.
Yes.
It'll be very
Absolutely.
divisive. Man, I can see Gabe's already mad about it. Like his
I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, it's going to generate some conversations. That's for sure.
What Penguin says in this, clearly that's probably Chip Zdarsky's talking points because they're relatively the same ones from Daredevil.
Well, Penguin's your voice of reason. There's a good reason not to listen to him. He's a fucking villain that's murdered a lot of people. Wolfstein 3D.
And he's
CW
fat.
is intended to produce volume over quality. They make seasons on a budget other series spend on one episode. Yes, absolutely. It's for cheap entertainment that will go out over the air and then eventually show up on a streaming platform so you can have content. That's why I put it. I don't know. Lois and Superman's good. Superman Lois. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
First two seasons of Flash were good. Smallville was good there for a minute. About 5 seasons. Something like that.
Yep, same way Arrow was for a couple of seasons, and Flash was for a couple of seasons, and
Yeah.
although
Wade Kramer-
weirdly enough, Legends was better in the middle.
Yeah. Wes called it a year ago. Wes is right. Is that the name of the show? Catwoman is banging Velmont. So will day before he got vaped and got vaped in Dark Crisis. Oh, is he better than you? Will Cat go to Bruce? Yeah, that was pretty obvious by the very first issue, Josh. It's like, oh, these two ladies are definitely going to be scissoring.
Yeah, I mean they set it up. They set it up in a weird way too, because I almost had like a yeah.
It's Titty Howard. Don't expect much.
That's what I was about to say. Like, you know, it was like I was hoping for the best from Teenie Howard, and that she might just for whatever reason kind of be one of those people that for whatever reason they shift publishers and suddenly they do better, and that was not the case. And then I hated myself for even like hoping for it. But
Spoiler alert!
desperate
Spoiler
for
alert!
good comics.
That is the best Tinny has to offer.
Unless you're doing LARPing.
Also, I could have sworn that when you initially read this super chat, it said Velma, and I'm like, well, Fred's going to be really pissed off.
No. We're going into the
Hope they
Scooby
don't-
stuff.
I hope they don't involve Scooby in this.
Gal Lyle Primal Season 3 trailer just dropped. Who's hyped?
What's Primal?
Gabe's hyped? You're hyped? Raise the roof, Gabe. Come on.
Honestly, I don't know what that is.
Magnum PI doesn't raise the roof? Oh my goodness. Don't raise the roof. That was awful. I haven't seen Primal Season 1 or Season 2. Is it good?
I don't know what that is.
Still waiting to watch Yellowstone. That's
Wait,
what I'm
some-
looking forward to.
I'm too busy
TV.
keeping up. I'm too busy keeping up on Ms. Marvel.
Wait, somebody explain to me what the hell Primal is.
All right, Doc, you're going to have to go into the comment section for that one. Wolfstein 3D, you guys remember when they turned the TMNT comics from an action book to a slice of life book on the female turtle struggles to run a soup kitchen? Yeah, I do remember. I made 3 videos about it. Is that selling yet, Drew?
They're
Have you been
selling.
reading TMNT?
I'm not reading it, but I do know for Ernie, he does sell them because each one seems to be like a quote unquote minor key, whether it's like a character wearing a new armor or a new character or a new character's friend. Each one's been a gimmick just to keep the sales up, and Ernie's selling them based on that alone. He's not reading them.
That's IDW, right?
Yeah.
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 It's terrible. They were doing like a battle of the bands, and the turtles don't do anything anymore. They're not ninjas anymore. They're just pathetic. It's
Yes.
kind of real sad. My goodness. Why did you have to bring that
talk
up,
a lot.
Wolf Steeds? My God. Bring up bad memories. Tavia Smoke, if the Super Sons movie succeeds, will it affect comic books?
Nope.
Don't get your hopes up.
Nope. That means all they'll do is do a sequel with Tom Taylor's Superboy.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely going to
And it'll be all about him being gay. That's what the sequel will be. Oh, you got success here? All right, come back for the sequel. And now we're going to propagandize to you.
Gal Lyle says, I also want to do DC Monkey Prince. I can see him being a Teen Titan. Also meant the city Sodom and Gomorrah when a woman was turned into Sodom. We knew what you meant. I was just messing around trying to bring it into DC continuity as characters. But I don't know, is DC Monkey Prince good? I know you read that one, Gabe. You were enamored with the character?
I felt better about him before his series started because he did where did he come up originally before that? I think it was in Future State or something like that.
He was in one of the like Asian inspired books.
Yeah,
That's
it was like the Asian
like
AIAP or something like that.
That was that anthology book with all the Asian characters. It's like Marvel's. It's DC's version of Voices, pretty much.
Yeah, Asian Voices. Some of the thing. Yeah, that was better than the series that we're getting, which is was it Gene? Is it
Gene Yang?
And
Ben,
Gene Yang. He's just not developing the character. He's just the characters are sort of jumping from here to there and everywhere. First, he had to pair up with Batman and Robin to kind of do the thing where he was fighting against his local villain. Now he's over in Amnesty Bay and with Aquaman showing up. So he's not developing as his own character. He's just sort of acting as a side character to establish characters. So he's really not doing anything with them. If they can give the character time to breathe, to develop his origin, to kind of help him come onto his own a little bit, I think he could be a very worthwhile member of the Titans, but right now he's just sort of just hopping around very superficially, and it's not going anywhere.
Just swinging around like a monkey.
Yeah, pretty much. That's about right.
Of course, they try to use Batman and Robin to kind of boost up the sales. I guess initially, I remember seeing those characters on the cover. So
now he's fighting characters from the deep, which is not a reference to the boys. It's the monsters that are coming out of the Aquaman series. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. DC Comics, DC shouldn't be at a con until they restructure everything. That might be the way that they do it, and it wouldn't be a bad strategy. You got to save the money up. You got to find the savings. So much stuff within Warner Brothers Discovery. DC Comics is in a good place. It sounds like they're probably going to go in a new direction following Dark Crisis anyway. Might as well just batten up the hatches and see what happens when you come back. Not a bad strategy at all. Kyle Weil, it's a cartoon by Gendy Tartakovsky, Clone Wars. If you love dinosaurs, gore, and Robert E. Howard prehistoric story, I highly recommend it. I'll tag you in a clip or whatever, or a clip on Twitter. All right.
Hey, didn't Gennady have a Luke Cage book that never came out?
No, it came out. I thought
that was the one that got canceled.
No, that's Ho-Che Anderson.
Okay.
That's the City on Fire thing that was like all about Antifa and Black Lives Matter. That's the one that got canceled.
Very true. But those are things that I like. I do like dinosaurs. I like gore, and I love Robert E. Howard. So you have me intrigued. Let's put it that way. So definitely tag me at something like that, and it sounds like something I'm interested in. Clone Wars is awful if you watch the movie in the first season, and then it gets good. Kind of weird. Did you watch the Clone Wars movie, Gabe? Zero the Hutt?
The Clone Wars movie. You're talking about are you talking about the extended cartoon stuff, or are you talking about the live action? The
movie they put into theaters that was the first animated Star Wars movie ever to release in the theaters.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Zero the Hutt. It appears to be the first gay Hutt character. It was crazy.
Yeah, thank you for telling me not to watch it. So
do not watch it. It's awful. It's my goodness, that was a terrible experience. But once you get to season 2, and then what's her name isn't so ignoring. It's not bad.
Yeah, Ahsoka gets better with time.
By the way, fuck you for giving me the mental image of two Hutts fucking. like it's like snail sex. Like really, really, really fat. I'm just thinking of very, very, very fat people trying to bone, and it's really kind of disgusting.
People are big slugs.
Yes, I know they're giant slugs.
It's not the visual; it's the sound of
Yes,
wet,
the
wet mucousy flesh slapping against each other.
yeah,
Whatever,
and
man.
like and
The sucking
not
sound is like
moving very quickly. Yeah,
Jasper James says Zero was never confirmed gay. I never said he was confirmed gay, but you know what I mean? You could tell. I got that gaydar when it comes to huts. You know what I mean? Who else we got? Everett Todd, Marvel and DC need to cut their lines in half. More than that. I think they should get down to 20 new comics a month per line.
Yes.
See if they can get things right, because they're well over 60, upwards of 70 right now. It is far too much. The Doctor, who's always wrong, in this case is right, says like the smash button. How do they do that? Let everyone else know that we're having a good time here, having a good conversation. Nice to have Clint Stoker from Sweetcast here with us today.
Yeah, good to be here.
First time on the channel. Oh my goodness, I've lost it. Where did this thing go? There it is. I've unselected that one. Let's go talk about Spider-Man. I don't think anyone saw this one coming, Drew. Dan Slott, who had like a 10-year run on Amazing Spider-Man, who we were told the edge of Spider-Verse was basically to destroy and end his Spider-Verse creation so that we would never have to see Dan Slott on Spider-Man again, is coming out with an ongoing Spider-Man series starting at #1 with Mark Bagley. How excited are you, Drew?
Oh, I am beyond excited when I saw this news. Beyond. But sure, why not? Who cares? I mean, he wrote and started this whole Spider-Verse bullshit, so why not have him finish this mess? But in Bagley, I mean, his art is good. It's not great anymore. It's good. So I'm curious to see if he can keep up the grind of interiors and keep up the quality. But let's be honest. Is this Spider-Verse crap going to be ending? No. If it's successful with all the different gimmicks, they're going to be milking this cow's udders until it's dried up. I don't see the Spider-Verse ending anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm convinced that Dan Slott's actually dead, and this is Weekend at Bernie's, because we already know based on Disney Plus show that Dan Slott's not doing a major percentage of his own writing. It's somebody else that's stepping in. So I don't know. I'm just surprised. I mean, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I wanted more than Dan Slott and his assistant.
I feel like this is one big, tell me you don't have a plan without telling me you don't have a plan. Because this whole thing with these rotating creators was it's clearly buying time to let whoever the new guy is, it's going to take over, or new girl, whatever, new person, take over the book so they can, kind of get a head start. And then it's like, Dan Slott, guys. And you're like, what the fuck? Who backed out last minute? Or who could you not get? Who did you piss off? Really? Who did you piss off? So,
and it had to be a Spider-Man #1.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Slott's had his up. I mean, he had a long run, right? So Dan Slott didn't have a short run. He had a fairly substantial run. For all the heat and the controversy and the divisiveness for One More Day, I mean, there were some positive moments in that run. So, I mean, I don't want to take that away from him and say he's a terrible writer. He's definitely got some talented skills. I mean, as long as you ignore Iron Man 2020, his run on Fantastic Four, and some of the other stuff that's going on. So it's a we shall see. Now, Dan Slott to me is a test, because we get plenty of people either online or in forums or in Slack chats and everyone else that said you have to separate the art from the artist. Dan Slott is that quintessential test, because in person he seems like a nice guy. His writing is good depending on the subject matter, whatever else. Online, he's a horrendous monster. So it sort of says, can you enjoy a Dan Slott Spider-Man run while ignoring Dan Slott as a person? And for all the nonsense he's generated and created at this, and also, for whatever he's created out of One More Day. If you can do that, then you're probably going to be fine. I mean, is he going to create a god-awful, terrible run? Probably not. It's probably going to be okay and maybe even pretty good. But it's one of these things where it's definitely not a top choice. It's definitely not my first choice. And if Marvel was looking to crystallize and clarify the direction of Spider-Man. Again, we'll get to that another Spider-Man topic here in a little bit here. That would not have been the direction I would have gone. But
I honestly I expected them to at some point give Spider-Man to Donny Cates. That's what I was expecting to happen. I don't know when. Maybe that'll happen someday. But I was just kind of surprised that Dan Slott. I mean, I guess it makes sense. He's like the status quo of Spider-Man because he's been around so long, perhaps. But I don't know. I'm not really interested in reading more Dan Slott Spider-Man.
Same. I would have been more excited if they would have just outright been like, hey, Christos Gage is writing, since Christos Gage ends up writing half of Dan's shit anyways.
Yeah.
But Christos gets too many other good gigs that he's not going to do this. Like, he's got TV and everything else going on. I think the problem that we're going to find here is that, Dan did write the character for so long that I feel like you're going to come back to it, and it's not going to feel – it's going to feel familiar, but not in a good way. And I don't think we're really going to get anything fresh. And I think his take on adding something fresh to it is going to be trying to incorporate all these terrible ideas that have been introduced over the past year.
Yeah. Well, it's like people like variant covers. Maybe we could have variant Spider-Mans. And like initially I thought the Spider-Verse was an interesting idea. I saw the video game. He wrote the video game too. Back right before they made the comic books, there was the video game. And he was the writer on that, and I thought this could be cool. And then I don't know, it lost me. Now it's become I don't know, I just feel like it's memeing itself. It's a meme of the comic book industry, variant everything. Identities, covers, rinse and repeat. Yeah.
The first arc will, feature Morbius, and it'll be called "It's Morbin Time," just to keep it going.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to have a lot of similar tones to when they, I guess it was about a year or so ago, when they put back out the Blue Beetle Booster Gold with Dan Jurgens. You're sort of coming back to what you're known for, and you have some of those nostalgic, hits in there, but it's not quite the same, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of that similarity with Claremont coming back on X-Men, which was okay. I mean, it's fairly decent, serviceable even, but I mean, it's sort of, you get the nostalgia hit, but it doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things, and it doesn't really push that team forward. It's just sort of like rehashing old memories.
Yeah, the only guy that's done that successfully has been Peter David with his Maestro stuff, and the new Fantastic Four #1 really wasn't that striking, but still, he's managed to make a bigger impact when he comes back to a series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been doing cool stuff with those Marvels throwbacks to the 90s continuity, but even this Symbiote Spider-Man was pretty cool until they did that stupid, was it?
King and Black tie-in.
King and Black tie-in that made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It feels like Slott had enough opportunities to do a Spider-Man story, Gabe.
Honestly, what sticks in my mind right now is that 616 documentary. I can't get over it. I can't. I try. I can't get over it. It's so amazing to me that a Marvel Disney owned streaming service would have put out a Marvel Disney produced documentary about how to create a comic book with Dan Slott at his center, and it made him look like an absolute buffoon. Him and Brevoort made them look like absolute buffoons, and they thought this was a good thing. And it made the company look like a joke. I mean, let's be real. It made Marvel Comics as a company, as an entity, look like a joke.
Looked like a bunch of idiot children running around playing pretend businessmen.
Yeah. And it's still up. It's still there. You can go watch it now. And they haven't taken it down.
They made the inkers and the letters and everything to the protagonists because you felt bad for him.
Yeah. Joe Caramagna looked like, he was getting railroaded around Christmas time when he's trying to spend time with his family. Made Christos Gage look like the true creator behind Slott, basically covering his butt for being just a lazy schlub. I mean, there's nobody that comes out of that looking good, and I can't get past it. I can't get past it. And so every time I think of Slott, I think of that documentary.
Especially Tom Brevoort just coming up. This is so funny. He does this all the time. It's fine. What the hell are you talking about? There's no accountability here, even from you.
Yep. It's crazy. I thought we were getting the end of the Spider-Verse. That was the big thing with Edge of Spider-Verse. Now it appears that series is actually introducing all the Spider-Verse characters, which we have too many Spider-Men as it is, into the Marvel 616. So we'll have Peter Porker. We'll have now Kraven. Spider. We'll have Venom. What's his name, Josh? The gay Spider-Man. Venom. Webweaver. Webweaver. What'd you think about that character design? Did he look fierce?
Oh my god, he looks so fierce, and I love the color story and the
He's
palette.
like had his hand on his head.
And I cannot wait till they come out and they announce that he actually designed Zendaya's dress for the Spider-Man premiere because it was all webs. Because you know what's coming.
And
It's
I
fabulous.
especially love that on the back of it, there's a giant arrow pointing to his butthole.
There was?
You know what?
Yes.
I haven't looked that closely, but it would not surprise me.
It's
yeah.
just a big arrow that like literally points right at his ass. It comes down the back, like it
They
balloons
should
back
have called him
out.
Sweet Cheeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's.
I have so many comments that I'm just.
You know what? As long
keeping
as we get
myself.
Hostess fruit pie Spider-Man in the 616 that beats people by throwing fruit pies at them, I think we're okay.
Man, I'd be catching with my mouth, man. I used to love some Hostess fruit pies, man.
Oh, okay, I was like, what are we catching with our mouth right now?
He's throwing fruit pies, man. Those are delicious.
I'm just waiting for the inevitable meetup between harness-wearing Bobby Drake and Webweaver with the arrow pointing towards us.
That's what I said. You know, we can get ourselves a new Spider-Man and his fabulous friends.
They'll all relocate to Fire Island, and then that's going to be their new base headquarters. Oh my goodness.
So we do have a couple of super chats we'll get to here real quick. Roddy Boy Comics. Hello, aficionados. Wes, are you going to ToyCon PH? I would love to go back to another con here in the Philippines, but I do have a 1-year-old, and my wife might murder me if I left her at home with the 1-year-old by herself. So that would require me to take my wife and all 3 of our kids with us, and the 1-year-old's just too small. So maybe in a couple of years I'll be able to get back to a con or whatever in Manila, and that'll be a lot of fun because I would really enjoy it. But gotta wait a little while. What did I do, Josh? What was so fun?
I was looking at the comments, and Trey was like, "Josh, no, don't ever talk like that ever again."
Well,
I thought Doc and I could do a little series, and we just recreate the Gap Girls. It's old.
Doc and Josh, Gap Girls, absolutely. I think that's
starving.
It's kind of the future. So hopefully, if I ever do make it, I will definitely reach out to you because we could have a beer or go to lunch or something. But it's probably going to be a couple of years at least before I'm able to make it back to one of the cons in Manila. Eric O'Sullivan, the Sultan of Soup himself. My goodness, Doc, this guy owes you, man. He's no one does soup better than Eric O'Sullivan on the internet, and he also does comic books. So definitely check out his YouTube channel. I think Mark Bagley on the new Spider-Man is a great choice, but his Spidey lacks without Art T. Bear inking him as is on Ultimate Spider-Man. Those are really good in my opinion.
Sure.
Bagley is a great Spider-Man artist. Has anyone drawn more Spider-Man comics, Doc?
No, I don't believe so. I think Bagley is probably the number one for the total number of issues. Between he had a very long run on ASM, then he came back and did about 140 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man. Plus, he's done a handful of other issues. He was cycling in and out during the Nick Spencer's. He did a couple of short little runs there.
Yep, when they went to that island and all that stuff.
Yeah, if you count the Venom issues that he did.
Spider-Man Life Story.
Yeah, he did Spider-Man Life Story. So yeah, you got a lot of. I mean, he's probably done 250 issues of Spider-Man. If I had to guess. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think he's better with Art T. Bear as his inker, though?
I absolutely do. I think that Art manages to bring out, I think, the best in Bagley, especially when it comes to Bagley Spider-Man.
Definitely see that. It's one of the things we're missing nowadays, Clint. There's no inkers anymore. Everyone inks themselves.
Yeah, it's a rare breed, huh? Yeah, it's interesting. Someone yesterday said, "Hey, you want to see some pencils?" And they sent me actual pencils to look at. It was crazy because I'm like, when's the last time I just saw pencils? It's usually just the same guy. So, yeah, interesting.
I By the way, I shared. I don't know if Wes could.
I saw it.
approve- Yeah, Web Weaver's design. Yep, arrow pointing right at his butthole.
Well, we're gonna have to let's hide this. Let's see if we can find this arrow that's at the butthole. Let's to hide.
Look at his back.
Oh,
It's an arrow
I
pointing
think
right
it's
at
a
his
spider web.
Yes, I understand, but the shape of the design is an arrow pointing at his butthole.
Yeah.
Man's got shoulder pads. I gotta
Yes.
say too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's fierce, right, Josh? That's the important
Oh.
part. This character is fierce.
Sure.
Look at that
The
hand
bell-
on the hip.
You got the bells. Well, even look at the other one. The whole like moi expression.
yeah, the
Me?
cover. Look at that.
And wearing the Jerry Seinfeld puffy sleeve shirt.
That was a good episode. Not a good design. No, I'm not very impressed with this one. Let me get this out of here. Those thing was awful. But absolutely, Mark Bagley on a Spider-Man comic is not a bad idea. I think that's it's one of those artists that you definitely think about. Spider-Man. I kind of wish he was doing Amazing Spider-Man instead of JR, but I guess he obviously has his fans as well. Sigmund Comics, we got HH. Shout out from Denver Fan Expo. Keep it true to thinking critical. Support these great comic book experts and pick up Here Comes Calico #5 on Indiegogo. Definitely, if you missed a Kickstarter, go check out the Indiegogo. If you're in Denver, go check out the Sigma Comics booth. I have a feeling that HH and company might sell you on some Here Comes Calico, and he's definitely doing the con scene. He's been out on the road for like 3 months now. So hope you guys are having fun. Hope you got a good hotel and don't get into too much trouble. Definitely check those guys out. Brian Borden. I didn't care for Slott's run on ASM and didn't even know about his social media behavior. Bring back DeFalco and friends on Spider-Man. Now we're talking. What do you think, Gabe? We need DeFalco back on Spider-Man?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it hurts me to say this, but right now I don't feel super enthusiastic about anybody writing Spider-Man right now. There might be one or two people who I think could do something interesting or creative, but if you said Spider-Man would be 10 times better if you got person X on Spider-Man, I don't know anybody out there that's
Chip Zdarsky's Peter Parker
Yeah.
Spectacular Spider-Man was really good.
It was really good, but but then when you look at what Zdarsky's been doing, well, we got Batman coming up. We'll see how people's opinions of this Zdarsky change on that one. Yeah,
Remember,
sure.
his Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man started out terrible. The first volume was unreadable, and then it got good.
Yeah.
What was the Spider-Man book that spanned the decades again?
Life
His
Story.
life story.
Yeah, that was good, and that was Zdarsky. I mean,
Yeah. So
Maybe
it's
you should get Mark Russell on there. Would that do it for you, Gabe?
I'd be perfectly happy if I never heard the name Mark Russell again. Thank you very much.
Oh, man. Are you going to be reviewing Superman Space Age?
Probably. Probably.
I've seen the first issue. You got something waiting for you.
Yeah.
Wait,
I got a lot of
hey,
things waiting for me.
By the way, I found another image of that web weaver. Not only does he have an arrow pointing at his butt, he has eyelashes on the eyes of his mask,
Mhm.
and he has a puffy collar.
Like
Yeah.
perfect design.
I put a link in the chat if you want, if anybody not like in the main chat, if anybody wants to look at it. It's fucking ridiculous.
The proper term is Elizabethan.
Yeah, if they wanted to
Dirty
make
girl.
it more gay, I don't know if it would have been possible.
Goodness. Dirty Girl Creates Carrie says Marvel's new catchphrase, Marvel keeping negative stereotypes alive since 2014.
Yup.
They are leading into them. Clint, did you see the What If Miles Morales?
Yeah, that was on my list for the worst comics of all time or of the year. Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to get to that one here pretty
Yeah.
soon. So between that and obviously Web Weaver, they've got away with it. I don't. It's absolutely insane.
I think
That
both of
yellow
those
spider-
books are under Nick Lowe, right? I think Nick Lowe's overseeing all of that.
Oh yeah, he's the big Spider-Man guy.
Okay.
That yellow spider guy says, wait, that yellow spider guy, that totally not gay Spider-Man. I'm just glad he was not called Yellow Spider-Man. The yellow Spider-Man.
he does have a yellow mask.
Hey, it would have fit. You know what's weird, Josh? They say this is the first gay Spider-Man, but he's not because Spider-Punk is gay.
Yeah, I don't care. They've been doing this with all their characters. First gay this, first lesbian that, first transgender. Even with creators, first trans. Like, it's the same shtick. They've been doing it all year long, if not longer. It's old. It's tired. Try something else. Oh, you can't because you're not creative at all and you have no talent.
Well, and Josh, you're right. And I just want to say, I was going to say when we got this topic, but these are not characters.
No.
Characters imply that they're multidimensional, have mental and moral qualities, as well as a degree of verisimilitude. These are just creations. They're ornaments.
They're caricatures.
They're pleading to the Twitter mob not to get canceled. That's what
yeah, but let's be serious too. Like, what do we know about this Webweaver character other than the fact that he's gay and like sews?
Nothing.
He's fierce.
Hey, by the way, I find it greatly amusing that it's not even coming out until July, which is after Pride Month. So, yeah, they totally nailed the timing on this one.
They didn't want to be too on the nose, It was like,
hey, you know what? We need because they don't understand. July is Wrath Month. We're doing all the 7 deadly sins. Each get their own month.
Man, we messed up that, man. We already did our 7 deadly sins videos. All right, let's talk about something better because there have been some good comic books this year. There have been some things worth celebrating. Let's talk about the best comics of 2022 so far. We're halfway through the year. Once you get through June, you're halfway through. There's been some quality stuff out there. I'm just going to go out there and say Batman Superman World's Finest because I think everyone can acknowledge that that's a fantastic comic book. That might be the best superhero comic book out there, Josh.
I completely agree. It's on my list. I feel like week after week, we keep talking about what comic books are lacking these days and why they're suffering from a story standpoint. And then here comes, World's Finest, and it just delivers everything we've been asking for. And it's been doing it week after week after week. And I know we have some naysayers, Gabe, that doesn't like it as much, but it's just nice. It's nice to have a comic book. No, I know. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm going back to that first issue. We're like, yeah, it's good. And we're like, no, it's great.
No, it was too busy. It was a little too busy.
There was a lot going on. But I was just happy that finally we got a comic book, a 20-page comic book where something freaking happened. But you have heroics, you have a story, you have decent characterization. Like it's checking the marks from what we want to see from a comic book story.
And he's got great art by Dan Mora.
Absolutely. I mean, Dan Mora is incredible.
And Mark Waid can still lick my balls. You know what though? It is a sad commentary when someone as shitty as Mark Waid is actually creating the best product on the market. But that's just because it's the least stinky pile of turd in the pile.
It's not really. I'm telling you, it's really good.
It is good.
I don't care.
But
you'd have to pay me to buy anything.
The good news is Doc can become a Green Lantern if he concentrates hard enough.
Oh yeah.
Listen, Mark Waid put you in your place in that review. I saw it.
Mark Waid actually logged onto the Weird Science website and commented on my review because I pointed that out as a little bit of OMG superhero logic science.
You gave it like a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave him
something you never
take the W.
Oh
Stop arguing. Just take the W. And like, no, but there's precedent. This has happened before.
So the giant baby threw another internet temper tantrum because somebody said something bad.
It wasn't bad.
Fucking shocked.
He wasn't. He wasn't
polite about it.
Yeah, he was polite about it. He was just being. He was a little smug. He was a little smug, but it was just like
anybody that looks like that man has no right
to say anything. You didn't need to say anything. Just take the
All
score.
right, Doc. You haven't even read the goddamn comic book.
Anybody that looks like Mark
of the year, we don't need your negativity. Go.
Anybody that looks like Mark Waid has no business being smug anywhere on the planet.
My goodness, Doc. I've seen you, man. You can't be doing that.
Hey.
As for
Doc is a sexy pirate beast.
Fuck yes, I am.
You definitely be considered a bear. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, Clint. What do you think is the best comic of 2022 so far?
Oh man, I'll be honest. I'm not reading new superhero stuff, but I did pick up. Let's see, I got Hellboy, Old Man Whittier. It was exactly what I thought it would be, which is so I enjoyed it. Best comic book of the year, I don't know. I've been enjoying Last Ronin. This is the only one that came out this year, I think, because it's
The
been
very
so
last
late.
issue was fantastic.
Yeah,
yes.
this was I mean, we were talking about the Ninja Turtles earlier and how bad that series is. I just go to this one instead. This was actually fun and interesting. Yeah, I don't know. For me, that's it. I've been reading a ton of indie books though. Tiger Blue. I don't know. You guys heard of Tiger Blue? That was a really good book. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of good books out there. Somebody said it best. Like if you don't like currently what is out there, just go. There's got to be back issues you haven't read yet. I think a lot of people are doing that as well. But I don't know. Good to see. I did hear that World's Finest was great. So
There are a lot of really good genre books out there. Superheroes aren't doing it for you, but you like horror or whatever. There's a lot of really good comic books out there.
Yeah.
If you only like superheroes and Marvel and DC aren't doing it, there's a couple of things here on the indie scene. But you can always go to Manga, because there's a lot of good superhero comics there as well. All right, Gabe, you've been reviewing some really bad comic books. We've been doing Harley Quinn the whole time. You probably Catwoman, all that crap. What has stood out to you as actually being what makes it worth it, Gabe?
Okay.
What makes all the bad comic books worth it?
I'll give World's Finest my runner-up, second best, because it is very good. There's some OMG Mark Waid superhero logic in there, but my absolute number one for this year so far is not Marvel or DC. It is Good Boy from Source Point Press. If you like action, kind of gritty action drama, John Wick style type of comic books with dogs. And then now we're into the second volume, where the first volume was basically almost a shot-for-shot remake of John Wick with dogs. And it plays 100% straight. They're not trying to be satirical. They're not trying to crack a joke. They play it with authenticity and sincerity all the way through, and it's fantastic. Now we're into the second volume, and then they deviate into a completely different direction. And they introduce this new character named Abraham, who's like the leader of this place called The Farm, which is sort of like a retirement community for assassins and killers in upstate. And it is fantastic. That is my absolute favorite comic right now of anything from anybody right now so far.
Very nice. Doc, you've been reading a lot of bad X-Men comics. Is Immortal X-Men your comic of 2022?
No. Not even fucking close. Because I put Kieran Gillen only marginally above Mark Waid on my shitty writers that really shouldn't have any business being in the industry list. But I'd say for the best things that I've read this year, King of Spies from Mark Miller. Yeah, we got 3 of the 4 issues in 2022, so I'm counting it. Maestro, World War M. So far, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, everything with those Maestro series have been good. Both volumes so far of Eric Canette's Arc Athena, really, really fucking good. And you know what? I've enjoyed Gunslinger Spawn and Batman Beyond the White Knight so far. I've generally enjoyed current ASM, but not. I'd say it's not on my best of the year. And I'm disappointed to say that Wolverine Patch is not on my best of the year. It's after 4 issues. There's only, in my opinion, maybe 1 that was actually, maybe 2 that was actually really good. And actually, you know what? I did enjoy both the red and blue Artist Elite primers.
Very nice. Artist Elite, that's your neck of the woods, right, Drew?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And I've got 10 for my of the year so far. No particular order. The Sumerian, Life Zero, Animal Castle, Strange Academy, World's Finest, King of Spies, Nottingham Volume 2 so far, Ice Cream Man, Maestro World War M, and Little Monsters by Jeff Lemire.
Goodness. Did you steal that? I'm gonna do my top 10 comics of 2022 so far. You stole my list. There'll be a lot of them on there.
Nice.
Man, that 0 hour is pretty damn good. I like the stuff that Blaze does.
Yes, absolutely. Blaze is killing it right now. They know what they're doing. They're doing it right.
Clint, do you know what a Blaze does?
No.
They go to Europe, because in Europe they release comic books different than they do here in the US, right? They release them essentially as graphic novels.
Yeah.
They go there and they buy the very best material. They translate it to English, then they release it as a series, sequentially like you would in the US. So you get Live Zero as a Blaze. Animal Castle's a Blaze too, right? Right, Drew?
Yes.
Yeah. The Sumerian series is like the Robert E. Howard, Conan the Barbarian stuff. But man, they get like the very, very, very best stuff and they bring it over here.
They've already tested the market and everything. That's a great business model.
Yes. And so you only get like the very best comic books, except for this weird Max Bemis Conan related thing that they decided to produce themselves. That was a bad idea. That one didn't work so well. But yeah, if you want to find some new comic books, go find a Blaze because it's all the best stuff from Europe. Absolutely fantastic. Does anyone else have any other things that they want to point out for the best comics of 2022 so far?
I'll just point out a few, since I only got to say World's Finest. I'll point out a few that weren't mentioned that definitely deserve some attention. But Action Comics, if you're not reading it, it's been solid. Same with The Flash, same with Moon Knight, as far as looking at the big two. I personally enjoy the Silver Coin. It's hit or miss sometimes, but you have just quick, impactful stories. It's not a long, ongoing arc. So if you just want something quick to pick up and put down, that's good. I will second King of Spies. If you didn't read it, go find the trade or find the back issues because it's excellent. And then I've actually enjoyed A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. It's not heavy on the story, but it's heavy on the action and it's entertaining.
Very nice. AJ Ward says, Wes, would you make a YouTube video on this so I can look back on it when searching for what to buy? Absolutely. That's why we're talking about it here, because I was putting my list together. They will be out this week. My best comics of 2022 so far and my worst comics of 2022 so far. That should be up somewhat soonish. Although we did have a lot of stuff kind of happen at the end of the week. So hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday, those will start. We do have a couple of super chats to get to. Nola Darren, I'm 26 minutes behind. I wanted to say, no offense, Pele was a cornerstone of the show. It hasn't been the same since you 86'd him. We never got the reason why. I did not 86 Pele. Pele was every time something political would come up, he would go on this 5 or 10 or sometimes 20-minute rant, and I told him we weren't going to do that on the show anymore. And I said, if there's any topics that I think could go political, you just won't join that panel, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. And then he got mad at me and said he didn't want to be on the channel anymore. And that's pretty much what happened. I have nothing against Pele. I like Pele. He's a good guy. He just would lose it sometimes when it came to the political stuff. And I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Dylan Lindsay, did Dog Wick get pulled back in because they killed his human? Is that what happened, Gabe?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good boy. They killed his human and he's out for blood?
They killed his human and he's out for blood. So he puts on his suit and tie. He goes down in the basement and busts through the concrete to dig up all his stuff. It's the first volume is almost shot for shot John Wick. It's almost exactly the same. It's just the human and the dogs are reversed. And the second season goes in a completely different direction that's just as good and actually maybe more emotionally gripping.
Very nice. There you go, Lindsay. Dill Lindsay, there's your answer. Let's get over to, we talked about the best comic books. We got to talk about the worst comic books of 2022 so far. There are a lot of them, and I've got a lot of, I'm parsing through them. The list is quite extensive. I'm just going to go with an event that I thought was just absolutely atrocious. It was called Trial of the Amazons. Gabe, you pretty much covered the entire Trial of the Amazons. I don't think that there were more than 2 good pages, let alone a good comic book issue to come out of this thing. It was an absolute shit show for the lead up into it, the execution of it, and even the fallout of it with Nubia, Queen of the Amazons and everything. I can't imagine anything going worse than Trial of the Amazons.
Wonder Woman hasn't had an event in a very long time. So DC hyped it up that this was an opportunity to kind of bring Wonder Woman back into the fore. She had a successful movie and all these other things that are going on. And it was a disaster. It was a disaster because you had the issue. The event wasn't an event as a standalone. You had to jump back and forth between the
It was a crossover.
it was a crossover between Yara Flor and the main Wonder Woman book and Nubia and all this other, and nothing. There was no coherence from one issue to the next. There was no coherence within issues, and then you did this thing with a murder mystery with Cassie, and it was a mess. As far as worst of the year, I didn't specifically highlight Trial of the Amazons, but basically anything with Wonder Woman. Anything with Wonder Woman for DC was in my book pretty much the bottom barrel of, just not because it's the worst character, but because of the complete lack of forethought and effort into taking what is a solid. If she's part of the Trinity, and for them to kind of sink to that level of low quality is heartbreaking.
Well,
And so that's why it gets my score for low. The tied as a second tie for that is One Star Squadron from Mark Russell, because Mark Russell.
Oh, man, that was bad.
Yeah, that was really bad.
The Trial of the Amazons, you're hyping it up as this big Wonder Woman event, and then you bring in literal nobodies, like people that have negative sales to their name, and with no history on Wonder Woman, and then promptly make them the face of the event. It made exactly 0 sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, made exactly that much money too. I bet you they lost some because the sales have been absolutely atrocious. Did you have anything else that you wanted to mention there, Gabe, as far as the worst of the year so far?
Well, that was the DC side. So basically anything with Wonder Woman, specifically Trial of the Amazons, with One Star Squadron as a close runner-up. On the Marvel side, I got to give it to Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk is just awful. It is awful in all the wrong ways. And I think in the first issue, in the back letters on the back of the issue, it's Cody Ziegler. So when he went out, he's like, I'm so happy that Marvel put their faith in me to kind of bring this character to life. And I was like, no, dude, no, just stop. don't
Cody fucking Ziegler.
Just that book was just so awful. And you just want to just put it in a corner and forget that it ever happened. It's that kind of book. It's terrible.
I agree. That thing was unreadable.
Yep.
But you can't look away because it's like a car wreck. Is this really happening?
It is the worst kind of fan fiction caricature of a mainstream character you can imagine. And it's not even Punk. It's not even Punk. The only thing that makes it Punk is on his van. He has a sticker that says Punk. That's
his name.
Come on, dude. Really?
It is the least Punk. It is someone. It is the idea of Punk from somebody whose sole exposure to Punk is Good Charlotte.
Or the
I miss
Goo Goo
Good
Dolls.
Charlotte.
That's right.
All right, Stoker, what's your worst comic book of 2022 so far? I know you try to avoid this stuff, but you had to accidentally buy a bad one.
Right. We talked about this just for a minute, but yeah, I think so I don't ask me why. I keep buying the Beast Wars run because Beast Wars are awesome. I do not like this comic series at all, but I keep buying the books. They're just not good. But I think like the worst one, because it's been universally panned everywhere, was the Miles Morales Thor What If book.
That thing was special.
In fairness, all of them were terrible. That one was just especially terrible. The rest of them were just, it looked like they were drawn by 6th graders.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was terrible enough that people were talking about it, which is probably, I think most of the time when these terrible books happen, they're just hoping to get people to talk about it and buy it because it's so bad. You know, perhaps they're trying to get some kind of points other than the story for what it is. But yeah, that was pretty bad.
So who's writing Beast Wars? I know that was that's the Transformers, right?
Yeah, Beast Wars Transformers. Let me check real quick who's even right. It's just the IDW series.
Give me a second, I'll find it.
Yeah.
Transformers Beast Wars.
Eric Burnham? Is it Eric Burnham?
It would be good if he wrote it.
They introduced new Transformers in it, and the focus is on those new Transformers far more than it is anything else. So it's like the original storyline, but worse. Like I don't know. I just feel like you should do something interesting or cool with it, not like, hey, let's retell it, but let's make it not.
It is
cool.
Eric Burnham. How did that happen? He was doing great on that Saturday morning adventures for G.I. Joe. I'm excited for his TMNT stuff too.
Yeah, I do not like it. It's
My goodness.
it's not good.
All right, Doc, you got to bounce out of here within a few minutes, and I know that you have a lot of hate built up inside of you. What's the worst comic of 2022?
Of course I do. What point would I be on this channel if I wasn't just entirely full of hate? No, I would say both Harley Quinn titles, the Harley Quinn main series and Harley Quinn Eat Bang Kill Tour. Both of them are absolutely disastrous waste of fucking paper. They shouldn't exist. The Knights of X, because it's Tinny Howard. I mean, honestly. Every Marvel comic that was published in early May of 2022. That was whenever they put out with the shit covers, the shit paper. Like, it was like normal interior.
It's called toilet paper, Doc.
Yes.
Yeah, come on, Doc.
What are you, back in Virginia again, calling it shit paper?
It was the worst paper that I've ever seen on a comic book. And they were still charging $4 or $5 for the books. They didn't do anything to save the customer money while handing us literal trash. But then finally, I'd say that the one that I've hated the most was because it was so predictable, and I called it the minute the announcement was made, and we got into it about it. Sabretooth, the Sabretooth series. All it is it's some other not comic book person, this Victor Laval motherfucker that just used Sabretooth to make commentary on the American prison system, which is it is the most cliched garbage I have ever fucking read.
What's crazy is that first issue was damn good. I love that first issue.
But it was so obvious where it was going.
Yeah, and then it went straight downhill right after that. It was incredible.
Well, I'm glad Doc's not going to be around for my recommendations of the week, because that's going to be tough.
You recommended Sabretooth? Oh my goodness, Gabe.
I like Sabretooth.
You're lucky Doc's not going to be here. He's jumping out of here. I
like Sabretooth not for what it is, but what it has the potential to
the commentary that it brings.
All it is just more nonsensical. Incarceration is bad. And hey, the social activist did exactly what we expected and what I expected him to do when you hired a social activist to write a fucking comic book about the social activism that he's involved in.
Well, I guess you're just gonna have to watch. You're just gonna have to watch the replay later to hear my justification. That's all I gotta say.
And the art is shit. I have never seen Leonard Kirk draw this bad in my life.
I'm really surprised you didn't recommend X-Men Green as your worst.
You know what? I don't even consider that an actual comic book. Anything that comes out on Marvel Unlimited doesn't count.
Well, it probably came out in 2021 anyway. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you think Leonard Kirk put a pencil between his butt cheeks and drew this comic book?
I believe that's he was probably using his hands to draw something else, so he just used his toes or his ass cheeks to draw this because it's fucking trash.
Goodness.
And the inking's terrible, and the color's even worse. And that's the final thing. Literally,
and his mom stinks, Doc. Don't forget about that.
Literally everything that Marte Gracia has colored. You know why? Because it's muddy garbage with bisexual lighting. When he actually puts color in and not just some other subdued hue of mud, then it's just
this guy's make a lot of sense. Me thinks 995 says Doc's full of shit. He's right, Doc. I'm sorry, buddy. No, all right.
He's wrong, but okay. I mean, it's fine. I mean, he's just still wrong.
I'm just playing with you, Doc. So you have to bounce out of here. You've only got a couple minutes left. What comic books do you recommend this week, since you're not going to be here for the end of the show?
You know what? This week I am recommending
Poodle.
Okay. Technically, it came out last week, but they released some of the variants for it this week. New Fantastic Four #1, and Batman Beyond the White Knight #4, and oddly enough, X-Force 29. I thought this was the first time X-Force has been good in a good number of issues, and honestly, well, no, I mean, look, hey, he's still, Ben Percy is still just poorly copying Joe Kelly and Steve Siegel's Cerebro Sentient Cerebro storyline from the Hunt for Xavier from like 1997, but this is the best issue where he has poorly stolen someone else's much better storyline. And the art in this was, I feel like Robert Gill is really kind of finally in his groove on it. There was a lot of really, really good art. And I don't know if it was different inker this time, but yeah, it was really, really good.
All right. So those are recommendations?
Yep. Those are my recs.
All right, Doc. Now that you're domesticated, what are you going on a date? Is that why you're dropping us?
Actually, no, I have to go pick up my car from getting inspected. And my roommate's got to give me a ride, but she has.
Sounds like somebody's going Christmas shopping in July. You just don't want to tell us.
No, I literally just have to go pick up my car. I dropped it off last
All right,
night.
buddy. Well, thanks for joining us.
All right, guys.
Glad you're able to get the hate out for everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. Fuck everything Marvel.
Doc has a hate on.
Bye.
Later. All right, Josh. You're a discerning comic book reader. What do you think is the worst comic you read in 2022?
Personally, my least favorite book that I've read is Batcat. By far, I
Batman
hate,
Catwoman by Tom King.
Yeah, if there's ever a book that I wanted to pee on, that's probably it. So it's just not good, man. And it's kind of what Tom King's been doing. It's just character assassination. But at least with some of the other books that we've disliked or hated where he's had character assassination, there's been moments where it's been like, well, that was decent. This is just
Crisis.
Oh yeah. This has
is
been
a Heroes in Crisis level bad book.
I could even go through Heroes in Crisis and I could find moments in that book and say I thought this was done well. But in this, I can't find anything that I thought was done well. It is a shit show. It's a clusterfuck. The plot doesn't make sense. Characters are just doing random things. It doesn't carry through to the end. He's doing all of his writing tropes times 10. It's bad. Other than that, I don't know. I kind of stuck with DC on this since I'm quote unquote the DC guy. But Shadows of the Bat I thought was a miss. I had Wonder Woman, but we've already discussed that. I will say from both companies, both Pride books were awful. Terribly bad.
DC's was as bad as Marvel's?
No, DC's was terrible, and Marvel's somehow was even worse. And I would say I'm shocked, but I feel like that's a stupid thing to say.
As a gay man, you didn't feel pride with what DC and Marvel put out?
No. I was able to at least walk away from the DC Pride book saying, hey, one of these stories was decent and one was good. And with Marvel,
you didn't like the D team?
Oh, hey, the D team. You know what? They were favorites of mine, and I have a giant poster of them on my wall. Specifically, the Transitioners, whatever. Yeah, that panel. Yeah, it's on my wall right now.
Pity girl.
Yeah, and then other than that, the same thing, Superman, Son of Kal-El. You had such a great opportunity to continue with a character that has so much potential, and we're just continuing to squander it and waste it, and it just seems like a miss. So
it should be Jay Nakamura and his friend Superboy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's not even a John Kemp book.
It's really not.
Yeah, I would agree. That one's been a big old miss. Drew, you read every single comic book, or at least most of them every single week. What stood out for you as being particularly egregious in 2022 so far?
So far, I would say anything by Christopher Can't Write Well.
Obi-Wan and Iron Man.
Yes.
Captain
America, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Punisher by Jason Aaron. I I fucking hate that with a passion. It has really destroyed the character, in my opinion. Batman 89, utter garbage.
That was terrible. I think it's not over yet, is it?
It's
No,
got
got one more coming out this week.
Yeah.
It's this. Oh, touch that.
I'm just gonna say anything by Tom Taylor and Strange by Jed McKay has been utter garbage. Utter garbage. And anything by Bendis, any X title, any Wonder Woman title. Yeah, there we go.
You didn't like Immortal X-Men?
No.
Man, I recommended that thing. It was all right.
Yeah.
So what's the worst of the worst there, Drew? If you had to pick one out and say, you know what, this is the thing that almost made me quit comic books. What is it?
I'm going to say it's probably the Wonder Woman stuff. That was the one, just all of everything just was a complete bad idea. Everything's just been a bad idea with the Wonder Woman. And I can't believe it. I really can't.
Man, it's Stoker. If he had a set of balls on him, he'd go get a trade of trial the Amazons right now. The wonderful praise we give that book.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting.
It's not. It's really not.
They did an event book with Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad, B.I. Allen, Stephanie Williams, and Joelle Jones as the writers. They all wrote it together. How could that go wrong, Gabe?
Every way that you can possibly conceive of going wrong, it went wrong.
Is Clunrad the worst creative pairing ever, like as far as writers together?
Their Batgirls is not the worst thing in the world. It definitely has a lot of problems, but Batgirls is not the worst ever. So they're definitely not good. They're mediocre. They're mediocre on their best day. Yeah, let me put it like that. But Stephanie Williams, not Stephanie Phillips, Stephanie Williams with Vita Ayala. That's tough. That's a rough pair right there. Nothing about that event worked. Nothing at all.
Hey, don't forget Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly either, because that's another pair that just like
I'd put
their
them on.
First issue of Captain America was okay though.
They got lucky with one issue. One issue out of all the shit they've written over the past like 6-7 years. One issue was good.
And their Harbinger, they did the recent Harbinger series for Valiant, and that wasn't terrible. It was okay, but they definitely didn't kind of stick the landing on that one. But it wasn't terrible either. So they're again their best day. On their best day, they're mediocre. But yeah, Ayala and Williams, that's the pair to beat. That's
the standard.
That's the low standard. That's the low bar right there.
We've got a few super chats. Jordan Fugate, also known as Jordan Fugate, can't catch the live stream today, but we'll watch the replay. You guys do an amazing job. Well, thank you very much. We try our best to be entertaining, informative, and have some decent conversations here, and I hope you enjoyed the replay. Dylan Lindsay says, Gabe, you sold me. I'm finding the book after this.
Yep.
Did you sell them on Trial of the Amazons?
No, sold them on Source Point Press. Good boy from Source Point Press.
Oh, I just bought the wrong book.
My goodness. What? You're in for a treat.
What did you buy?
I'm just teasing.
Actually,
I got the Amazon book.
Source Point Press has a Dracula series out right now, so you may want to check that out.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Competitors.
Yeah.
Stomping
competition
your
right there.
Territory. Happy Steve. I read Transformers Beast Wars entirely. I am a fool.
I'm right there with you.
Is it that bad? I figured it'd be all right at least.
I mean, it's just so okay with this. I really don't try to spend my money on bad comics, so that's part of it. I'm shocked that you guys have read as many as you have. Like, to me, I don't know. I guess it's definitely content, but I don't have time for it, so I try to really avoid them. Beast Wars, I want it to be awesome, and I think part of it is I want to write it. I want to be the guy writing it, and so I'm already like, I have this standard for it that it's not going to live up to. So there's that. But the art is not good at all. I mean, objectively speaking, the art's not good. I don't know why they took it the direction that they went. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I thought you were done. My bad.
No, you're good. Yeah, so I'm right there with you, Happy Steve.
The reason that we read so many bad comic books is Drew works for Comics Elite, a comic shop, and he does their YouTube channel where they review everything, whether it's good or bad. Right, Drew?
That's correct. We read 30 to 40 or more comic books every single week. And we were able to discern the good from the bad for the most part, right,
Yeah.
Gabe?
I mean,
And then Gabe reviews for Weird Science, DC, and Comical Opinions, and he got the short straw, so they stick him with all the bad comic books.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Some of those I pick just because I'm a glutton for punishment. But
You asked for it.
no, because you know why? Because everybody and their mother reviews Batman.
Yeah.
Everybody and their cousin reviews Superman. The problem that I have in the Weird Science and the
You got to review Aquaman.
Yeah, everybody spends so much time on Batman, Superman that they're almost ignoring everything else. So part of our mission statement, if you want to call it that, is we're trying to find the stuff that nobody's talking about because maybe there's good stuff out there, but it's not getting the attention.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you got to sort through the bad, and we wind up picking good. I would never have found Good Boy if we hadn't been looking for it.
Yeah. And somebody has to do it. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm glad. It's not part of my like YouTube content. It's not part of my like anything, so I'm like, I buy comics. I'm trying to make a bet on what I'm going to like. And when it goes wrong, it feels bad. So
Those are the days.
yeah.
I want it back. But yeah, when you got I cover like all the news and stuff, so you have to read a bunch of crap. But Josh used to do the reviews of Batman news, so we had to read a bunch of bad Batman comic books.
We did the same thing that Gabe was trying to talk about, though. We'd have a weekly or monthly post called Break from the Bat, where we'd try to touch on things that people weren't talking about, because there's so much good stuff out there that just deserved recognition. And then, Clint, you said you're not reading like present new comics. To give you an idea of what the general state of comic books is, if you go back to like 5-10 years ago when you'd have a list of 20 to 30 comics that you thought were good comics, like genuinely good comics, and then you had like your pack of like 50 that were like, yeah, they're all right. You might have like 10 to 15 that are all right, and then everything else is garbage. And the all rights right now get so much praise because they're actually okay and readable.
Well, isn't it? I mean, because World's Finest, the praise for it has been that it reads like an '80s comic. That's what I've heard, which is interesting because it's like you have to go back to the '80s for like, this is what we want,
Well, that's fair and that's unfair in the sense that it reads like an '80s comic, but not because it's time specific or has that
pace, like
a nostalgic vibe. It's got the energy, it's got the colors, it's got the pace, it's got the story flow. So when we say it reads like the '80s, it's because back in the '80s, that's how they were doing a majority of the comics. Yeah. They weren't trying to deconstruct people. They weren't trying to do dark and gritty and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and they were treading new ground. Like that's the only way I can describe it. Like the Turtles, for example, them treading new ground, it just feels like treading water. Like they're just, I don't know, let's do something fun. But in the '80s, it was like, hey, here's a monumental. These are all periods in this character's life, like this is the next thing that's happening. That's interesting. So I think that's a high praise. I love it. But yeah, that to me, it's like, it's tough because I'm a busy person, but I don't know. I'm like, I really am trying to avoid the bad comics. So I'm glad somebody's got to tell you where the good stuff
Public
is.
Service.
Yeah, it is.
And of course,
Santiago.
This is how life happens in real time. Just as I'm saying, I look for the stuff out of the mainstream, I just get the DM that says I'm reviewing Zdarsky's Batman. So
you're gonna love that one.
So we'll see.
Matt Santiago says Doc is traumatized. Confirmed. Good job, Wes. Well, I do what I can. It's my job to basically make Doc. What do they call it? Shell shocked. Every comic book he opens, he thinks it's going to be the worst comic ever after what I've done to it. And I'm not apologizing. I feel like I did the right thing. Doc needed it. Nerdy Girl Create says, what about the best manga of the year? All right, Gabe, you're the big manga guy. What's the best manga of the year?
That is a tall order. See, a lot of this, if you're talking about brand new.
How's Chainsaw Man? Have you read that?
Chainsaw Man is very good. So that if you're looking for like new, Chainsaw Man would probably be one of the top of the list. If you're looking at which is still top but maybe didn't start this year, right now we're coming into the peak finales of both. We just finished up the current big arc before the hiatus for Black Clover, so that was very good. We're coming into the big, super big finales for One Punch Man and My Hero Academia. So yeah, I couldn't even pin it down to one. If you're looking for new, I'd probably have to give it down to give it to Chainsaw Man. That would probably be the big hit right there.
I'm reading Kaiju number 8 right now, which is a
Yeah.
newer one. Not exactly brand new, but that
It's
was
good.
absolutely fantastic. Really enjoying that one personally.
Yeah, Kaiju number 8 is good.
We got any other manga people here? Drew, do you read manga, or are you one of those guys who you a comic snob?
I typically buy American, but
now you're making it patriotic. It's not. I'm not a snob. I just love America.
I love America. Yeah, life patriotic. I buy America. I stick American. But the two, they're not new. The only two I'm reading are the Guyver Bio Booster Armor and Berserker, and these are the two I find I like the most.
You're not reading the food truck one?
No,
Oh.
sorry.
Man, that's you'll swears by that one. Do you read any manga, Clint?
I tried out a couple manga. I've only watched like 4 animes in my life. So my brother got me to try one. He got me to try Death Note, which was so good. I watched it twice, and then now I want to read it. I loved it. So I know that there's some good stuff out there. So I've read. I'm not going to pronounce his name correct. He's really well known for doing horror, and they collected a bunch of his stories into some shorter collections. And I read the one where the fish come out of the water, biomechanical fish.
Is it the Junjito or
Junjito? Yeah,
Junji Ito.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, that was the weirdest book I have ever read. Period. But it was really
Japanese.
Entertaining. Yeah, it was so strange. So I'm open, but that's why I'm like, hey, maybe Chainsaw Man. Maybe I'm gonna check that out. So I actually have Amazon open right now.
What you need to get is you just get Shonen Jump. It's $2 a month, and you basically get all the manga as it's updated.
Yeah, the two big ones are Shonen Jump and Manga Plus, and Shonen Jump is only $2 a month, and you get everything right from the beginning of time for some stuff, for most stuff.
Yeah. So the state of the comic book industry, you guys talked about this, and it's interesting because I'm curious to compare the best manga of the year with the best American comic book of the year.
Like it's not even close.
Not even close. That's I mean, it just boils down to story, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So those are our mangas. Josh, did you chime in on this one?
I don't read them there backwards books. I read my books left to right,
Another
not right to left.
patriot.
They taught me how to read proper like over here in Texas.
I knew we had to make it on the panel.
Just don't use big words.
There you go. That's the manga talk for the show. Let's go and do this last. We already talked about the LGBTQ characters. Let's talk about these comic book sales. We got the big headline: 60% increase in the comic book industry, hit $2 billion for the first time. Josh, big news here. Were you excited?
No, because there's so much data that's missing from this that's actually critical to what's going on. We know that manga's included. We don't know the extent yet because I don't think that article's dropped from IBC2, right, Gabe?
I don't think so. I don't think not yet.
So we're waiting on that. That'll shed some light, but I think you need that to kind of understand, okay, how much of this weight is being carried by manga and how much is actually Western comics kind of pulling its own weight. But there are other things that you have to look at too. Like if you want to determine that you're going to have successful sales, you need to look at the units. So pretty much how many different books, how many different titles are you publishing within that year compared to previous years? You'd want to have an idea of some type of margin, because just because you're pushing a book and getting units doesn't mean you're making a profit off of it. And they're never going to give us margin, but it's just things that you have to take with a grain of salt. And they kept having this reference about how they were surprised, how they weren't surprised that books did well in 2019 or in 2020 versus 2019. There was that conversation because of COVID. And I was like, your 2020 books outsold your 2019 books. Why do you keep saying this? So
manga did, not comic books. It was shrinking in the comic book industry.
But they were talking about total sales and still saying, surprisingly, things did well in 2020 versus 2019. Surprisingly, I'd have to go back and look to it. But they kept making references that it was no surprise that they did well in 2020 versus 2019, even as a total. And it's like, but you saw an increase in sales, overall sales.
Not at comic shops though, where U.S. comic books are. There was a big decrease because they got shut down.
Yes,
But
but
they
I'm-
don't explain the stuff very well. If you
No.
look at the line for comic book sales over like a 6-year period, it's essentially flat. So the exact same amount of dollars were spent on comic books in sales, I get, with the way that they're doing it in 2016 is versus 2021. But we do know that like the cover price is almost like 15 or 20% higher.
Yeah, and then
So
we
that means
also
there was decrease as far
we
as
also
units.
we also saw the lift in what book stories contributed to it, and that was a huge lift. And you know, that's, I mean, clearly you've got your Barnes and Nobles out there, yes, great, but you're also seeing a big lift that's coming from your Walmarts and your Targets. And if you go to Walmart, well, one, if you go to Barnes and Noble and you look at their manga section versus their comic section, in my local town, the Barnes and Noble pretty much has 2 full rows of manga, and they have like an end cap of comic books. And then if you go to Walmart, if you go to a Target, they usually have like a capsule that is this pretty much manga, and you might have 1 or 2 comic book related things there, and they're usually the YA books, not even a trade for a graphic novel.
Well, so
sorry.
oh, sorry, I'll cut in here just for a minute. But I think the whole fact that we can't suss out the specifics is a problem to me, because surely they have those numbers. You know, ICV2 and Comicron, I mean, they put all this together. Where are they getting the numbers from if they can't possibly separate them?
Well, Brian Hibbs
That's
already
concerning.
did his big detailed analysis about all the MPD Bookscan numbers, which is 80% of all the books sales in North America. And he broke it out by every single publisher and like trends over time and everything. And it paints a very bad picture.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so then it's being,
they-
but the point is though, it's being presented like this. This is the headline. I mean, you could go through, I guess, that you could see it there, but this is the headline. This is what everyone's talking about, or just the bottom line numbers. That to me is a bigger problem, in that it's not that they don't separate it. Like, that's part of the headline. Hey, manga's doing great, and then everything else is flatlined.
Well, and the other problem really, Clint, is every year they change their methodology for how they're calculating it, but they don't readjust the year before. So they keep adding stuff on, like to the sales data and things of that nature. And it would be very helpful if they broke it out. But you got all these like people from DC and Marvel, like, yeah, look, it's doing great. It's like, but
Not for
it's
you
not
guys.
DC and Marvel that are selling though. Like the sales in comic shops, unfortunately, are relatively flat. And the only growth we're really seeing there is in graphic novels as well.
But their message, like, they're trying to hide it. I mean, that's my point. That that signals a bigger problem to me, and that they know that they can't just let it be for what it is. I don't know, that's frustrating.
The Comicron guy, I forget his name. It's John something, I think. I forget
John
exactly.
Jackson Miller.
Yeah, John Jackson Miller. I've heard him. I've read some of his stuff. I've also heard him speak. I think he's trying to be genuine, in that he's doing his very best to try and pull the numbers together. But there are a lot. When you see that one graph, and it just, you see the bars tick up, and then all of a sudden you're at 2 billion. That graph is very problematic, because he's drawing from a sampling of, I think, about 100 stores roughly. When there's nationwide, it's about 2,500. So you're talking about a sample size of 4%. You're not even at the 10% mark. And then he's extrapolating out. And then when you see that graph that says 2 billion for comics, there is so much lumped into that comic section between graphic novels that are Western versus graphic novels that are manga, comic book sales, what percentage of comic book sales for at the LCS are new comics versus back issue.
They shouldn't include any back issues. It should only be new comics.
But you're only drawing from a sample of 100 stores when there is 23 to 2,500 over a nation. So
yeah, but that's like the smallest portion. All that, the big growth, like the part that goes up to 2 billion,
graphic novels.
is graphic novels sold in bookstores, mostly manga, including Scholastic being another big contributor.
Right, but then when you put out this graph that just says comics,
yes,
there is so
very
much
misleading.
There is so much nuance and so many ways to slice and dice that data. I don't think he's doing it to be deceptive, but that graph is deceptive. And I don't think it's intentional, but it's definitely deceptive.
But this, I mean, it's the same year that we were just talking. DC's trying to save how many billions of dollars are they trying to save? I got to look at the numbers again.
Well, Warner Brothers Discovery are trying to save $3 billion.
Yes. So, but they're taking that out of the marketing might of DC Comics is what they're doing. But I don't know, like it does. Obviously, everybody's saying the same thing, but the numbers don't match, and that's I don't know. To me, it just like I'd rather see more transparency in it.
Well, there's no transparency now that the distribution is split up between Lunar. We also obviously still have Diamond, then we have Penguin Random House. Before, when it was all under Diamond, they did an annual report and we had the exact numbers, but no one reports their numbers anymore whatsoever. So there's no transparency. Yeah. And as Gabe was talking to there, Comic Hub is used by a very limited amount of stores. It's only 100 worldwide, and they're extrapolating nationwide sales out based on that sales data. So it is very difficult. I've talked to actual creators specifically that said, you know, the projected dollar sales, which they don't do anymore, were so off from what my publisher actually told me that I did that it was shocking. It was so far off. The comic sales through comic stores is very, very difficult because there's no transparency whatsoever.
And I would even argue that the numbers for DC are worse than the chart in the report says, because one of two reasons. The first is if DC's numbers were better than what is being projected through that report, they would have chimed up and said something. They said, "Oh, our numbers are not that good; they're much better." So if their numbers were, if what the report is saying gives,
well, it never actually mentions DC sales. That's the problem. Is they don't break it down.
So they have no reason to correct it, which is exactly the point. So if there's no reason to correct it, and those numbers project that DC or Marvel or whoever else are better than they actually are, then why leave it alone? Why correct a lie that works in your favor? So so what that tells me is that from a DC and Marvel perspective, the numbers are probably actually much worse than that report may suggest or imply or let on. Because if they were doing much better, they would have chimed in and said so. Even though it doesn't specifically call them out, but there's enough there for people to get impressions.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to actually come up with what they're trying to say that DC and Marvel are doing specific, but people jump to a lot of big time conclusions, Drew, based on some very generic graphs that don't really give you much information, but people are screaming from the rooftops that nothing's wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone's saying, yeah, comics are better than ever. Comics are booming. I mean, in the broad sense, yes. But when you like I say, the devil is in the details. Mm-hmm. When you get down to Marvel and DC, if they were doing as fucking, if it was like the Lego movie and everything is awesome, the page rates would be going up. People would be getting paid more. People would not be getting paid below minimum wage to produce a comic book. Editors wouldn't be making below the poverty level of Marvel in New York City. This is the area of concern where I'm the most concerned. The page rates for the creators, and if they were doing that well, the numbers would be going up.
Do we just hear that Oni Press they've been stiffing people from paying creative teams? I saw a headline on this and a little bit of discussion. I didn't look a lot into it, but that does not that's not a symptom of a health.
No, yeah, I saw, and I think like the head guy quit or left or got fired or
actually three people left Oni Press within the last week and a half. Three bigger name people.
Yeah.
3.
I mean, even if you look at the big two, you've got companies like Marvel paying their like senior editors $30,000 a year when they're living in New York. But
right.
I mean, you're getting everything you need to know from that. I know that the Comic-Con guys said the ICV2 typically does a manga breakdown, typically shortly after these numbers come out. So I think that's a thing that'll be interesting to look at. I wish these numbers here kind of gave that breakdown between, like, go ahead and keep it by your divisions, but break it down between manga and Western comics as well, because that's really what we need to see. And the reason I say that too is, like, I mean, a lot of it, it's fallen off. I think it's more of a quality issue and a price issue than anything else. But, if we lose monthly comics, then what does the comic industry look like going forward?
Graphic novels.
They probably should just go to graphic novel. That's what everyone's reading anyway.
Agreed, but you have your main publishers that have already stated they can't survive off that. So then what does that look like?
they can survive off of it. Look what Manga's doing. Look what Scholastic's doing.
But you have to pull those numbers, and you know what I'm saying? Like you have to pull those
That's
numbers.
That's what I'm saying. You have to go into the market and compete with the people that are leading it, and you have to adjust what you're doing. And they're afraid to change with the market. And if they don't, that's why they'll die.
Yeah.
My minor disagreement with that is that Scholastic is a very different market.
Yes, it is, because it's
a different
kids' comic books.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a different market.
But they want to go in there and compete with them. That's why they're making all these Gotham City High where Bruce Wayne's gay and all this thing. And that's how they're competing in that market. And guess what? They're failing there too.
Yep. They're not going to compete with You Bring Me the Ocean. Nobody's competing with that.
and My Name Is Not Starfire.
Yeah.
But that's what they're doing. They're trying to go in there and compete. They're doing it completely wrong. They're learning all the wrong lessons. And they're touting like all these big numbers, but we already saw the Brian Hibbs report where he broke it down by manga, by Western comic books. He broke it down by publisher. How's everyone doing in comparison to what they've done in the past? And the numbers don't lie, and they were very, very poor, which obviously were a big part of these 2021 numbers, which they guessed on what the sales in the direct market are.
Yeah. But that's also why when this report came out, I was more annoyed than interested, because that first graph is the thing that hits you right in the face, and it is so misleading and so incomplete and so open to interpretation that you knew the bad actors on both sides of the argument were going to chime in with their interpretations. And it's the same argument over and over again. And John Jackson, he knows that. He's no dummy. He's a data guy. He knows the power of a visual graph like that, but he put it out anyway. So
they do that. They do that report every single year, and they have since 2013.
Yeah, but they know that it's misleading. They know that. They're not dummies. They know that, but they put it out anyway. And so I got to look at them and say, you know what, just forget. And you have to dig in. You have to do a bunch of work to figure it out. God bless Brian Hibbs for doing that work for us. So fine, but at the same time, it's like, the only thing that really matters at this point, I won't say the only thing that matters. What matters more is the ranking charts that we get on a monthly basis, where you see how DC is stacking up against Marvel on the monthly stats. I think that's more of a helpful
trend analysis.
It's trend analysis, because it shows you where DC is stacking up against Marvel, and it's really more like Marvel DC at this point when you look at the top 50 and the top 200. So I mean that's probably more telling than just giving you an idea of where the market's headed. But yeah, I mean the report's really not helping anything at this point, because all it's telling you is where they think they might have gone, but the numbers you really need to have a true honest analysis, you need the sales numbers, and you're not going to get them. And so it's just basically it's an educated guess, and that's all it is.
Yeah, definitely not from the publishers. The MPD Bookscan is the only thing that we have that's truly reliable, because those are sales to customers. I had people who were like, Berserker sold 6,000 copies of one comic book. It's like, listen, Berserker, comic shops did order 600,000 copies because they had a 1 in 1,000 variant cover signed by Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. So there are like 450,000 comic books out there that actually weren't sold, but they were able to sell the rare variant cover for $1,000 and recoup their money. That's
and guess what? We're still sitting on several cases of Berserk.
Shocking.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
DC's thinking about buying them up to replace their toilet paper supply to save money.
Maybe. It's a weird way to look at things. The comic book industry is strange. So, does anyone else have anything else to say about the comic sales numbers from that report?
The only thing I would add is I was going through Twitter, just kind of looking at seeing where they would potentially break down just comic books that are Western comic books, not including manga. And in one of the charts where they have it broken down between graphic novels, comic books, and digital comics, they were stating that the comic books, that yellow column, is just Western comics.
It's
so
true.
if we look, that's what the Comic-Con guy was saying in the chat.
That's what I said in my video.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But if you look at that line from 2016 to 2021, it's flat. There's no growth over those 6 years.
Agreed. The only difference is, 2019 to 2021, you jump from 355 to 435 million. But once you factor in the fact that, people here in the States were getting money handed to them, that's not that great. And I would like to go look at the number of titles that were released year versus year.
Yeah, and when you consider cover prices have gone up in that
Oh,
time
100%.
where that growth rate is flat, but cover prices have gone up, that
Yeah.
means volume count has dropped.
Mhm.
And that's definitely not where you want to be.
Oh, agreed.
Absolutely. All right, so we do have a few super chats we'll hit real quick, and then we'll wind this bad boy up. Happy Steve, another person given Death Note, the gateway drug.
It's true.
Goodness, I thought My Hero
Smart
Academia
writing.
was
Very
the,
smart
was the
writing.
gateway drug.
Yeah.
Dylan Lindsay says, just a reminder, July is manga month. So grill out when you can and volunteer to do something good to your community, big or small. I don't know if it's manga month, but I hope everyone is ready to celebrate 4th of July. If you're in America, if you're not, hey, celebrate it anyway. America is a great place. Don't believe what people tell you. I know we'll be celebrating here in the Philippines. So I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday on Monday. Should be lots of fun. Old School Comics says, what about the numbers from CLZ for new comic sales? I've never seen those reports. If those are out there, I haven't seen them. But if you could email them to me if they're out there, I will do some work on them. We got anything else? Nope. Let's do it. Let's talk about some comic book recommendations. We had an interesting week. Drew, you and I are going to do a video tomorrow talking about the best comic books of the week, right?
Absolutely true. Yes, we are.
Do you want to give a little teaser out there, or you want to just wait?
I don't want to wait. Guys, go watch our reviews. Watch our best of the week, guys.
That'll be up tomorrow, just after dude. Clint, what are comic books you recommending this week?
This week, I feel like Clint Stoker's Dracula. No,
that's very smart. That's what you should do.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's on Indiegogo, 3 days left. Yes, I am related to Bram Stoker. It's ridiculously distant. And so why not? That's why. No, it was actually really fun. I've had a great creative team. Donald DeLay is the artist on the book, interior pages. I've got a cover by Eric Canetti and a cover by Kelsey Shannon. Very fortunate to have those fine artists working on the book. So yeah, check it out. 3 days left.
My goodness. Very good. You've been fully funded for quite some time. Are you going to be breaking any records this time?
No, this is just, I mean, it's just another book. It's my first horror, my first hardcover, my first, like, the book's finished ahead of time. I'm trying to move more to, getting the book done first so people don't have such a big wait time. And so that's what this is. So it's been an important book. It's not like, Fatal was, I've got a book that raised over 100K, which is
very nice.
Amazing, but it's also a challenge. So a few other ways. So,
well, congratulations. Glad to have you. We'll see if we can get you back here on the channel soon. Gabe, you recommend any comic books this week?
Yeah, I'll recommend a few. Just a point of full disclosure: I did back Stoker's Dracula. I'm a sucker for Dracula, no pun intended. But I am picky about my Dracula, so don't disappoint me because I'll be very upset with it. And that had no sway over my.
Man, you saw what happened with Stephanie Phillips, right? My goodness, Gabe went over the line and he made her mad, and he got.
I remember when I reviewed what was it? Her Alex DeCampi's Dracula MFer from a couple years back. She did that the crowdfunded book, and that was okay, but it had some problems, and that generated a little dust up on its own. So yeah, so I'm picky about the Dracula. If it's Dracula, it has to be good. So we'll see. Yeah, so I did back it. From Marvel, I'm sorry, Doc, you're wrong on this one. I am recommending Sabretooth #4. I liked it. Not because of what it is, but because of what it could be. Because if you're reading that story and you're following what's happening there, his prison cellmates are planting seeds within Krakoa that could spark if you want to call it this, a civil war on the island and possibly bring an end to the Krakoan era. For that alone, I'll give it a recommendation. It's very talky heavy, it's very dialogue heavy, but because it has that kernel, that seed of an idea that it can upend everything that is going on with Krakoa right now, you got my money on that one because I want to see that.
You're very hopeful, sir.
I want Krakoa to be done with, and if they follow that book through to its logical conclusion, that's the path to do it.
You're putting a lot of faith on logical conclusions.
I am, but I'm holding out hope on that one. On the DC side, Drew, calm down. I'm going to give a tentative recommend to Swamp Thing #14.
Hey!
Mostly for the art. Because Mike did a great job with with his Green Lantern portion of that book, and he missed his calling doing Green Lantern work in just on.
He does the story with Dan Jurgens. He does the very last story arc in the Green Lanterns with Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz. Definitely go read that one.
He needs to get back to that. He needs to get back to that because when the Green Lantern portion of the book comes in, he shines. And that's where he's missing his calling, even though the rest of it is good. But yeah, when he does the Green Lantern stuff, it's great. And even though the story is still hokey and it's way, way, way too much flowery language, I'll give it a tentative recommend, but primarily for the art. And of course, again, even though I haven't said it enough, my top book of the week is Good Boy Volume 2, Number 2. I can't get enough of that title. It's fantastic, and that's from Source Point Press.
Very nice. Josh, what are you recommending?
I would say these are soft recommendations because I think both of the issues for these titles were a little bit of a step down than what they've been. But I'll go ahead and echo A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. It came out this week, and then Action Comics as well.
Very nice. And I will recommend Green Lanterns Volume 9, Evil's Might by Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins. Mike Perkins is a fantastic Green Lantern artist. Thank you for reminding me about that one, Gabe. I had kind of forgotten about it. Tomorrow we will have our big recommendations video. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Specifically, shout out to Clint for joining us for the first time with the channel. Congratulations on the success of the book, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's fun.